Today's data context rating, moderately heavy. All right, folks, welcome to What Are the Odds with Barnes and Baris. I am one half, Rich Baris, the People's Pundit, and Barnes is here. Look at that. That was like perfect timing. All right, today's data content rating for the show, if you didn't hear me before, I'm going to go ahead and rate moderate to moderately heavy. Probably moderately heavy is an even better way to put it because we got a bunch of charts and other stuff, including a PDF. And then on top of the new polls the new poll results that we have to go over. All right, for What Are the Odds? We should have just entitled this show, Robert, Why Are We So Much Smarter Than Everybody Else? And I do that on purpose because I know these people are so pissed. They're just so angry. They don't understand like why they have to constantly walk back stuff and move goalposts and stuff. Well, because they just didn't see as clearly into the future because a lot of them are inexperienced, Robert. I mean, that's what it comes down to. A lot of them are new to this game. They don't actually do the jobs that we do, so they're not immersed in it. They're just like watching from afar, and they don't talk to any voters. They don't view poll data on a daily basis. They don't, you know what I'm saying? Like they just don't do the job, and then they're really, really naive to DC, which is like I think a big deal, a crucial deal, because you and I said. What Tucker, he said it to the New York Times was perfect. The reason the problem with the real problem with the limited strikes last year is that if you're smart, if you know DC, if you're not a noob, if you're not green behind your ears, okay, and you didn't just fall off the truck, whatever expression you want to use, you knew that was the opening act for regime change. You knew that was the opening act for a greater conflict because you've been around the block. And then that compares to like the shills, the Trump shills, the apologists, and then maybe even some people that want to do a good job, Robert, but they're just stupid and they just don't know any better. They're naive. Okay, let's not say stupid, ignorant. And because like it's at this point, like I've said before, you have to be stupid, honestly, because ignorant is the ability to learn something you just don't know. Well, we've had plenty of time for them to learn, have we not? Right? So I just wanted to open it up with that today because it's a vindication for everybody who's called to panicking and was told like this poll is bad, Robert. Welcome, man. I mean, welcome back. But like this poll's bad, bro. This is the worst poll I've ever had in my entire career.
Yeah, we'll be going over that, the upcoming primaries that might have changes in the dates of those primaries. We'll see how that works in South Carolina, Louisiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida. So we'll be going over some of the big ones, the Kentucky, Louisiana, and South Carolina and Texas ones that are currently scheduled for the next couple of weeks or month. The second will be what is the impact of redistricting likely to be in this term for 2026? Which states are likely to actually redistrict, what that might do for the Republican odds to hold the House. The third aspect is going over all the midterm projections given the current markets in terms of the House, the Senate, particular seats, particular states that might be in play that people are not thinking about, and looking at what are some of the biggest possible upsets, primary or general election for 2026, given expectations in Washington and given expectations in the prediction markets, because there's not always parity between the two. But I thought we'd start off. Can you show a link to the 1776 Law Center?
Sure can.
Yeah, the for those that are able to attend, August 1st, August 2nd, in honor of the quarter-century anniversary of America's independence, August 1st and August 2nd, Chattanooga, Tennessee, going to have a 2-day conference. All the net funds go to help 1776 Law Center, which supported people like the Covington kids and Kyle Rittenhouse and Amish farmer Amos Miller and election integrity. But you can go to 1776lawcenter.com. There's a limited seating available. So if you want to get tickets, you need to get them sooner rather than later, because once we're capped, we're capped. That's it. But the top of the hour there on August 1st will be Richard Baris and I going over what is the future of freedom in America. What is the American public opinion look like? We'll go into great detail about what the 1776 Law Center survey found, what legislative proposals at the local, state, and federal level might be popular, who might be surging in different parties or candidacies or the like. Also go, how you can have a turnkey way to run for office, what issues and ideas you should be looking at if you're looking at either supporting people running for office, volunteering, organizing. But all of that, you can meet us right in person. Hopefully Richard's foot will be okay this time. Won't have emergency medical treatment on the side. Even Laura might be there.
There was a doctor in the house.
Yeah, exactly. She saved somebody the first time we did an event. But that's all at 1776lawcenter.com. It's me, Richard Baris, Alexander McCorris is coming all the way from London to talk about populism versus globalism all around the world. Alex Christoforou is coming all the way in from Greece. The Larry Johnson, ex-CIA analyst, coming up from Florida. Daniel Davis, Colonel, coming down from the Virginia area. We got Chase Hughes, the expert on CIA psyops, coming in. Mark, I'm blanking on his last name. Sorry. The entire behavior panel is going to be there. Scott Rouse is going to be there. The Greg Hartley is going to be there. Everybody except Mark actually is going to be there. All of them will be there. Viva Fry is going to be there. We may have some special guests coming in, so that there's limited tickets available. So just go to 1776lawcenter.com. You can get your tickets now while they're still available. Everybody will be there in person, 2 days, over a dozen hours. There'll be catered dinners, brunches, lunches, snacks, you name it. We'll have little moon pies from Chattanooga, some little Debbie's from Chattanooga, some Chattanooga whiskey sampling, all that. Will be
this is amazing. By the way,
he was one of our great board members. Came up with that excellent old school pamphlet. It's perfect quarter-century anniversary, so it should be a lot of fun. And you can meet everybody there in person. It's going to be, how do you reform the intelligence community? How do you reform our military supply chain? There's going to be Maha people there. Representatives who've taken underdog elections and won in shocking ways, and then went and changed the whole nature of the way food could be delivered in Tennessee, for example. So key Maha activists are going to be there. But it's all going to be how to run for office, what you should be running for office, what the American people are looking for. So if you want to be engaged, involved, connected, meet a lot of cool, fun, and interesting other people, all that will be it.
Say that. Yeah. I was just going to say that the people you'll meet there, I mean, it's a lot of fun. The food is good. And I got to tell you, even with my broken ass toe, I think I did pretty good on that panel.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It was a lot of fun. A lot of insights. People want to know, how do you run for office? What do you run for office?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have some things about we'll have somebody who did it, a state representative who took on an incumbent, an established, entrenched incumbent, and beat him. To the shock of everybody in the state, and then went and took on the state legislature and got a bunch of critical Maha things passed, food freedom bills that had not been passed before, medical freedom bills that had not been passed before, limits on vaccine mandates, the right to sue if they violate it, all kinds of great things done. She's going to be there, that state representative, along with the organizer, one of the key Maha organizers across the country is going to be there, Amy Miller. So you'll get practicable, actionable intel and information. It's not being recorded. It's not being broadcast. So the only way you can see it is to be there in person. And it's a 2-day event, Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's designed so that you can fly in the morning of Saturday and fly out Saturday night if you want, or drive in Saturday morning, drive out Sunday night if you want. But Chattanooga is a fun place to be. A lot of things to see in that area. Affordable place to stay. Yeah. So it has all of those amenities. Plus, it's critical to everything 1776 Law Center does, and supporting food freedom, medical freedom, political freedom, financial freedom. These causes that are growing and expanding and widening and deepening, even if folks in Washington, D.C. are a little asleep at the wheel at the growing popularity of it. They just got hammered when they tried to sneak in immunity for glyphosate and everything else. Didn't see the rebellion coming, a bipartisan rebellion.
Thank you,
coming.
Thomas Massie. Thank you, Thomas Massey.
And Congresswoman Luna and Congresswoman Boebert and Congresswoman Mace. These people are on top of it. The people, it's not a coincidence, people that understood the importance of the Epstein Files, Transparency Act, also understand the importance of food freedom, also understand the importance of financial freedom, understand the support of all of these issues that are going to be the future of American politics. The only question is which candidate, which party takes it up. But it's going to be, Maha is powerful. They were able to turn around and beat Bayer, one of the most important foreign company lobbyists, not named the Israel lobby, in the United States. And they got whooped. They got whooped fast. So that tells you that the power of what this is. So if you want to be a part of it, just come to the 1776lawcenter.com. Get tickets today while they're still there.
I got to tell you guys, the city's all, if you've never been, if you have, then you know what I'm talking about. But the city is just an awesome city. This time I'm bringing my wife. I'm staying at my favorite hotel because I want that shrimp and mac and cheese, or the lobster mac and cheese. Call me bougie. I forgot they screwed something up on last time. Wasn't even screwed it up. It just, it was the most ridiculous mistake. And I was like, don't worry about it. That's ridiculous. Don't worry about it. And they were like, no, we're going to make it right, sir. We're going to make it right. And I'm like, there's no reason for that. Honestly, it's fine. Dude, they come back. They bring me a bowl of lobster mac and cheese, which was the best lobster mac and cheese I've ever tasted in my life. It was so savory and delicious. And then they sent me home with some, I don't know, dessert, which I normally wouldn't eat, but because it looked like the chef or the head baker or whatever over there put in so much effort, I ate it and it was magnificent because the presentation alone was just gorgeous. I'm like, this is guys an art. These people are artists over here. And the steak was incredible. And it was something so ridiculous, Robert. And I was like, don't worry about it. And they were like, no. 1 minute, right? And I called my wife and I'm like, you've got to see, I'm about to FaceTime you my macaroni and cheese right now because it's that good. So I told her, she was like, really, both of us really love areas that have history and stories, and boy, Chattanooga's got them. And even that hotel, which I'm not going to get into. I don't want someone showing up there trying to blow my head off, but it's got stories, man. The Uber drivers, they'll tell you all about the town. It's amazing. It's a really, really cool place. I love it. And, come on down. We'll have a blast. All right. Where do you want to start here, brother?
I was thinking maybe with some economic. You have your new economic confidence index. We got the consumer sentiment surveys from the University of Michigan. So this is the current context and environment in which the 2026 primaries are occurring, because those are literally in the next couple of weeks and months. And so before we look at those individual primaries, then we look at where things are heading into the fall. You need to know what's the economic environment. And the most important, as Richard and I have talked about many, many times, the most important metric is what people think about the economy. It's not whatever the Dow is doing. It's not whatever NASDAQ is doing. It's not whatever the banks say is happening. It's not what some nerd says GDP is. All that matters is, how does the ordinary person feel about the economy? Are they hopeful? Are they optimistic? Are they hopeful and optimistic right now? Or are they at least hopeful and optimistic for the next 3 months or 6 months or a year? Because that mindset tends to be the number one determinant as to their approach to the election. So let's take a look at
let's look at consumer sentiment first. Let's look at theirs first, because ours, after, I'd like to give people, a little bit of an idea of what other people are showing. And then, especially ones that have longer surveys than ours, and then give a context. I think I see something in our numbers that's really disturbing. But first and foremost, this is the index of consumer sentiment. I mean, gray shaded areas, guys, like not plot areas, right? Like not plot bands, vertical plot area. Look, those are recessions. Okay. Look at where you can see dramatic dives, right, Robert? I mean, as you would agree with this, right? Dramatic dives right before what? A recession. All right. Now, The one in 2020 that you see, that's all. A lot of people will even put asterisks next to there, like, that one, and say this was basically an artificial recession. Like we did this to ourselves. All right. But you're still seeing comparable declines, right? So this is what concerns me, brother. You can see where Trump got a boost among optimism, which I will show you too in our index in a second. He got a boost in sentiment and optimism after he was elected, and people were like, thank God Trump is back. We're going to be hammering the domestic. He's going to, the economy's going to get on fire again. And then he bombed Iran for Israel, and we've been stuck at it.
And to your point, so for people looking at this, the higher up, the better, the lower down, the worse. Because sometimes you get these graphs that mean different things. That whenever you've seen a drastic decline or fall in the consumer sentiment about the economy, it has paralleled either a ongoing recession or about to be a recession historically. So that's factor one, that this is screaming recession incoming. Second factor is it's critical to understand in 2024, voters thought 2019 was coming back. Pre-COVID economy was coming back. And for those that didn't, we were hammering this throughout that, which was that prior to COVID, or prior to the choice of Trump to lock down and everybody else to lock down, it was COVID didn't cause this, the lockdowns caused this. But putting that aside for the moment, that we warned about at the time, was look at those highs. Those highs had not been experienced since Bill Clinton's 90s. So, Barack Obama had not hit those highs. George W. Bush had not hit those highs. Trump, let's see, if you look at, basically it went from, it mostly stayed weak under Obama. And then under Trump, it really took off. Going into 2020, reason why we were so optimistic pre-lockdowns was Trump was in perfect shape to win comfortably in 2020, as long as he didn't go along with the lockdowns. And when Richard and I were, we said, just avoid the lockdowns. Took tons of heat, even from friends. Jack Posobiec said we were wrong. Steve Bannon said we were wrong. Tucker Carlson said we were wrong. Almost everybody, not named Alex Jones, said we were wrong.
Yeah, it was like three of us. It was.
That was it. It was us saying you can't afford the lockdowns. The lockdowns will be disastrous, and not only for your freedoms and liberties, but it will kill his economic recovery and invite mass mail-in voting. That's, by the way, only member of Congress objecting to it. The only member of Congress saying he wasn't going to go along with massive spending on the CARES Act. He said it would be inflationary. Said Thomas you can't lock down supply chains. The guy who said I refuse to leave. I'm going to force Congress to actually vote, not start doing this remote voting where we don't know who's voting. Was of course the one and only Thomas Massie. But this is what. So this shows you is what people thought they were getting in November of 2024 was those 2019 consumer sentiment surveys. They thought the 1990s style economy was coming back. And to be frank, they probably thought 1990s culture was coming back. Like, it's okay to be gay, but let's not have full trans. And you got to shove it in their faces. You got to make us bake the cake. Very 1990s. We were feeling prosperous. We were feeling economic. I mean, there were some weak links in farm country and the industrial heartlands. But Trump was even looking at those and having specific policies to improve farmer prospects and manufacturing prospects with his industrial policy. So you were at peak economic satisfaction for the first time in more than a quarter century with Trump. And that's what they thought they were getting. That's why you see that sudden spike in November of 2024. They're like, oh, yeah, this is coming back. We're rocking and rolling. We're going to be back soon.
Right.
And then all of a sudden we get, let's not cover. The Epstein file, transparency, and all of those were sort of sideshows, but they were sideshows that said to the electorate, oh, you're not going to be focused on us. You're not going to be the drain the swamp guy. You're not going to be the U.S. first guy. You're going to worry about this foreign nation or that foreign nation or another foreign policy or this little corporate constituency or this little donor group. What about me? What about Joe? Trump ran on, I'm going to get costs down. Trump ran on, I'm going to make housing affordable. And then all of a sudden, let's not offend the boomers. They got a lot of paper value on those stock markets. Paper value because they can't sell it for that. But that's wonderful paper value. Let's not offend the boomers. And then of course, you flash forward a year forward. And to give people an idea, not only did American voters in November of 2024 think they were going to go right back to those 2019, early 2020 highs, that they are now hitting depths that have never been seen in the history of the survey in American history. Yeah. Worse than the 70s, worse than the 80s, worse than at any point, worse than the 91 recession, worse than the 01 recession, worse than the 08 global financial crisis. They are worse than at any point at the peak of the COVID lockdowns. They are more negative about the economy. And if you dig into independents' perspectives,
yeah, that's what I want to show. That's what
exactly. You look at independents at some of the worst numbers that have ever been done. The worst numbers, the worst ever amongst independents.
Let's go all forward into the future here. And then right there, guys, at the bottom, you can see April. Okay. If we go back real quick, let me just go back so I can show them the columns. Okay. So the left 3 is the index overall. All right. Current economic conditions is the middle column. And then at the far column is index of consumer expectations. So that's our 6-month outlook. We have something very similar. They do a 6-month outlook. The Consumer Conference Board, their confidence index, because this is consumer sentiment, very similar, but they also have a 6-month outlook. So you're saying, do us a favor. And we have 2 present situation sub-indicators that make up the present situation index. And then we have 3 that are for the futures. And the bottom line is, so by the way, that's exactly what the conference board does. This is what, this is my problem, because I see it with them too. There's this like convergence where people say it's crappy now and they don't expect it to be better 6 months from now. And that's the problem, because we always are like optimistic and forward thinking. That's how Americans are. And even if the economy isn't good, historically, if you study this stuff, you'll see Americans tend to be optimistic about the future. Like just they do. So when it converges, it typically in our index and in the conference boards and survey consumers is a problem. It indicates a recession. When they all drop together like that, they're well below 50 together. That indicates, whoa, we could be headed for a recession, because people don't see it getting better. Maybe it doesn't. Voters, this is adults, they are smart. They're very good at forecasting shit, actually. They're pretty good at it. All right. And then with all 3 of these, Dem, Independent, Republican is the order in which it goes. So let's go all the way down. Look at independents. Dems are 32.5 with the overall index. Independents are 47.3. Republicans are 90.4, but actually for Trump, that's pretty bad. So that's not a good reading. And it's not, guys, 90% are saying I'm optimistic. It's a relative value index. It's calculated later. I can actually show you with the way we do ours. But it's not good that they're 10 points off the high. Like if you go back and look, you'll see just recently 97.2, 96.3, 97.1, 96.4. There was one month where it dipped, Robert, to 87.9. But you can see that they generally are, they want to give their guy as much possible credit as they can. And honestly, under Obama, we started to see these huge convergences with respondents by party. It wasn't really always like that. George Bush, it started a little bit under, but definitely under Barack Obama. Gallup, us, survey then was done by the University of Michigan, right? The survey of consumers, the conference board done by Nielsen. We all started to see where Democrats would be like, no, the economy's great. And it was horrible under Barack Obama. They were living in another world. And then when we got to Trump, he exploded with the numbers you just saw here, because independents, Democrats were very negative. Still, even when the economy was roaring under Trump, Democrats were negative as hell. It was independents who were mirroring Republicans and saying, no, this economy is good, daddy likey. Well, we're not seeing that right now. I mean, this is in the dumps, guys. And for Trump, it's bad. Look, overall, you look at the futures expectations, 44.8, it's actually less. That's not good. All right, so independents are saying it sucks now. And by the way, it's going to suck 6 months from now, even worse. That's how they feel right now. And, there is some other stuff, but let me just compare what we're showing them real quick to what we found, all right, which was, this is the headline overall. Let me get this down. Come on now. There we go. This is the overall is the thick green. That is the registered voter economic confidence index. It came in at 44.9. The future or the expectations index, right? That has more weighting on the overall level that is calculated, because it has 3 sub-indicators and the other one only has 2 for current. And it's made up of business conditions overall. How do you feel about them? employment conditions, how do you feel about them? And then, of course, the expectations for those two 6 months from now. And then the inflation-related indicator, which is total family income. So do you expect your total family income 6 months from now to basically be able to meet the bills? Will it be sufficient for you? And that is where the bad news is. We could scroll down a little bit before I just make, we just added this, which is all the sub indicators, Robert, and how they trend over time. I mean, look at Trump, man. Look at this. Look at this. In the first quarter of 2025, that's when he came in and they were like, oh, right. Everyone had this boost of optimism, the same thing you saw from the survey of consumers. And then it just began to deteriorate. It's not in our survey. There's a reading during Biden's era. There's a period during Biden's era. So far, that's worse. But, it keeps up like this. Next quarter, it won't be. It'll be worse than Biden. I can tell you right now. Here's where all of them, before they're calculated, this is where all of them, their relative values. This is what jumped out at me, bro. Look at the employment conditions. 41.8 is what it scored. Current business conditions scored 45.1. They're negative and it sucks, but it's not normal. If you go through the history of this index, it's not normal to see current employment condition views be so much lower than everything else. In fact, honestly, people typically feel, worse about their income in some months, so, and that came in at 45.1, by the way. So everything's like 45 to 46. And then you have the current employment conditions at 41.8. I mean, it's bad. It means this labor market sucks. Let's call it what it is. I mean, it sucks. They're pissed off because they've been saying for the better part of a year, please, Donald Trump, get back to the domestic. We did not elect you to start a new war. You promised you would never start, and it was stupid, and the Bushes are idiots, and that you're going to ignore lobbies, you're going to ignore foreign agents, you're going to ignore all these interests, and you're going to deal with what our needs are at home. And it's like, so I don't want people to underestimate what I'm saying here. It's more than just they don't feel good about it. They don't feel good about it. And they feel betrayed. They feel betrayed. There's no nice way to put it. There's no other way to put it. There are high prices to pay for political betrayals, guys. Like, you don't get away with it. In 18, and we just showed you the Conference Board index. You could see ours. In 18, the economy was doing good. In November of 2018, Republicans got curb stomped because they broke a 7-year campaign promise to repeal and replace Obamacare. And then Democrats were running on this fear they were going to take away protections for pre-existing conditions. It was a great op-ed from a then defeated congressman in Minnesota. And he said, you cost us the House, but John McCain killed us because he came in, he knocked that down. And without reality to dispel the Democratic attacking point, all people saw was a betrayal. Also, all people saw was a broken promise. It depressed our turnout and it turned persuadable voters against us. He was totally right. Yeah, the Russia stuff was on the periphery, bro, and it cost people like Dana Rohrabacher or something. But it didn't cost them the House in that number. That was their failure and their betrayal on Obamacare. And so you've posted the betrayal. So not to jump too far ahead, but you got all these people now who, by the way, criticized us when we said this was stupid. Don't do this. This will end your presidency, right? It'll end the presidency. It'll cost the midterms. They're all now trying to move the goalposts. And they're like, you know what? We got to wrap this stuff up and then, get oil prices down in a month or so. That's some wishful thinking stuff right there, brother. We're beyond gas prices at this point, even though that's a problem. It still wouldn't do anything with betrayal that he chalked up on the board. Only action, real, so bold actions, completely humiliating Netanyahu, running this FDR kind of program in the Congress. There's nothing else that you could do because you can't counter that, right?
Well, I think so there's a couple of components here. One is that, there are people it's not Trump's fault what the economy is doing. That doesn't matter if people perceive it as. So the issue is that Trump campaigned on this. So there are people it's very hard to absorb the supply shock of the COVID lockdowns and the Biden inflationary spending and fix that quickly without a recession. But that isn't what Trump ran on. Trump promised growth and low cost. That's what he campaigned on. That's what he promised people. He said, I'm going to cut the budget, the deficit dramatically, and I'm going to give you a booming economy, and I'm going to give you radically reduced costs. So is it hard to do all three? Yep. Absolutely. But who campaigned on it? Donald Trump. So if you have an issue with it, take it with Trump's campaign promises. It's these people who just want to, ignore that aspect. The second component is so first they were expecting these things to happen and they're not happening. And then they have an easy explanation as to why it's not happening. It's because Trump is more focused on foreign issues than domestic issues.
That's right.
Trump cares about everything except us. We're last. Argentina matters more. Venezuela matters more. Cuba matters more. Iran matters more. Israel matters more. Ukraine matters more. Everybody, from their perspective, you can disagree with their perspective, but it ain't going to change their perspective.
It's not going to change. It doesn't matter. Right.
It's how they perceive it. That's problem number 2. And then problem number 3 is this war is a unique war in that it has direct economic cost at home in ways that a lot of our prior conflicts have not. And that's why it's more damaging to Trump's image and the Republican Party branding at home. So Americans, even a majority of Republicans, blame Trump for the high prices at the gas pump. Trump made a big deal about getting gas prices under $3. He said, I'm going to get him under $2. Even talked about it in the State of the Union address, that the whole plan of the Trump administration, the Republican Party, was to use the tax refunds of March and April to give people a perceived boost economically while their cost control was starting to come into place. The war has changed all that. Nobody's paying attention to the tax refunds just because the way war sucks up all the oxygen in the room. And then the second aspect is they now blame Trump for why their food costs are so high, their fuel costs are so high, that all the other costs are going up. And they're frankly not all that wrong. There's a part of it that it was outside of Trump's control. But again, he campaigned on claiming he did have that control. And then the second part is, so that's not really
his first term and appeared to his first term, Yeah,
exactly. The perception was, I'll bring back the first term, great growth, great employment, and with hope for industry and farms, and without high cost. And with Biden, they got high cost and a sluggish economic growth. So the Trump says, I'm going to reverse that all, and I'm going to cut the budget in half that Biden blew up.
Yeah.
Instead, the budget's blowing up more than ever. Instead, we're distracted by, and again, what the normie voter going to perceive it as? The normie voter is going to perceive it as, because we're spending a bunch of money on foreign wars. Yeah. So they think the reason why they're paying more,
government.
They think they're paying more because the budget is out of control. They think they're paying more because of the war itself. And there's a lot of reasons why they think that, and they're highly unlikely to change that perception. So what that means is they're unhappy about where things are economically, feel betrayed by Trump, and it's going to get worse rather than better because the underlying economic numbers are going to bolster what they think. We're heading into a summer of the highest gas prices in quite a while, the highest diesel prices in quite a while, the highest food prices in quite a while. Because what goes in, and the problem here is the president's been out telling everybody that the oil and gas will come right back down, that the food costs will come right back down. There's no economist that thinks that.
There's nobody that up.
Who looks at the economic. And so what's going to happen? They're going to think he lied again. They're going to think he's to blame again, that he betrayed again. That's the problem with that kind of messaging. It's short-term gain for long-term pain. Exactly the opposite of what they've been pitching. Because telling people gas prices are going to come down, what happens when they go up even higher? Telling people food prices are going to come down, what happens when they go up even higher? We're going to have supply shocks that make the COVID supply shock that took 2 years to ripple through the global economy look like child's change. Because what you're talking about is gas and oil. The Straits of Hormuz closed for what? Another month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months? What does that mean? 15 to 20% of the world's oil and gas not getting out on a global market. 30% of the world's key fertilizers not getting out. 30% of the world's helium not getting out. 10% of the world's aluminum not getting out. All of these things are critical input costs to the entire global supply chain. That's why people are going to Walmart and seeing things all of a sudden double in cost. That's why in Michigan, in the Midwest, they're seeing diesel. And why does diesel matter? Because it's a version of diesel is what goes into jet fuel. What did that cause? That caused Spirit to have to declare bankruptcy and go out. Spirit thought they could rebuild, but it was all built on low gas prices. Once the gas prices spiked, Spirit was finished. You're going to see airline after airline after airline all of a sudden cut trips. The majority of Americans say they cannot afford a vacation this summer. Main reason, fuel and gas cost. The diesel costs go into all the truckers. Diesel costs go into what a lot of farmers use. 70% of farmers say they cannot afford, with fertilizer and fuel costs, to be able to even put in the crops this crop season. That 2/3 of them are saying they're looking at bankruptcy. So these people that live in the Fox News, BoomerCon slop world, which is a delusional world, which is a fantasy land world, don't realize that the normie independent voter is going to blame Trump when things get worse rather than better this summer.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's so much I want to say about that, especially with what you ended with, because it's the entire point of the book. We have to, and I'll show you guys, we have to really start to pay attention to this idea, to the generational conversation. So Trump was not elected by a coalition of boomers. He wasn't. The Hannity, Fox, BoomerCon, the ones that live in this delusion that Robert's talking about, probably a bunch of you watching right now, maybe you're pissed off in the comment section. Listen up, and listen up good. You're not even a majority of your own damn generation. All right, your generation is getting increasingly liberal because Boomer 2 missed the draft and got a professional class, contagion among itself. So you vote Democrat. You are a minority in a larger group that, starting this year, began to turn 80 and will be phasing out of the electorate very, very soon and promptly replaced with the next largest group, which will be dominant for many years, the millennial generation. And Gen Xers will be dominant for a bit, but millennials coming will dictate the 21st century. There's no doubt about it. They will set a chart, they will chart a course and set a path for Generation Z and those after to take. You can't keep governing for Sean Hannity and Mark Levin. Like, this was the most, I hate to devolve into this, but this was the most retarded thing I've ever seen a president do. He's elected, especially the right hasn't seen a political opportunity like this for my entire lifetime. I mean, I was alive during Reagan, but Reagan wasn't really going to fundamentally alter the relationship between the state and the individual, right? Like Trump wanted to do, right? And Reagan, it was a different thing. It was just a totally different set. Like institutions weren't wholly failing under Reagan. It was a different world. Whereas Trump comes in because people elect him, because they have instinctively concluded, and for a while, and now they've definitely developed it more intellectually. And Glenn Greenwald's tweet about Israel and the lobby and all that is totally right. That's how voters, they've come to a more intellectual conclusion about this, right? The bottom line is, that they elected Trump because they concluded that this system was broken, the institutions were broken, and that there is only a small group of people that have a bunch of shit and they don't have much of anything. And this system not only works for them, but works for them at everyone else's expense. And it's a dirty system. It's a failing system. It's a selfish system, because it's like you have this boomer gen that just, rah, 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 wave the flag, live in your friggin' delusion, and don't care about how this is going to end for your children and your grandchildren, and you just don't give a shit about that. Like, it's unbelievable. I've come to really like millennials and Gen Xers, man, particularly, they've opened my eyes to this, Robert. Like, it's true. And contrary to what, before I get into the personal financial situation data, I just want to pop this up real quick and we can come back to it. I hope we do. But contrary to what everybody heard about who dipped, who has Trump has lost so much with, in truth, Gen X and millennial men were hanging on longer than a whole lot of other groups. And this month was the month, Robert, when they bounced. And that's what really was it for me. When I looked at this poll, I said, this is the month that you and I have been screaming about for a year. That this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. And we talked about young men, but the truth is, in our data, what we saw was the real damage was younger women who supported Trump. Their shift away from him, their voter remorse is detrimental. It's 40 points at least on a given month. But those millennial men, man, and those Gen X men, many of them were holding on. He was elected by millennial mind changers and first-time participants in Gen X. That's who really elected Donald Trump. Meanwhile, he did 1 point worse with 65 plus in 24 than he did in 2020 when he lost. Like, I just don't understand what people don't get about this. Like, I've said this stat, I've said this fact over and over again, and people just can't fucking digest it. They can't understand why that is significant. They're not the future, bro. Like, that's it. I don't know what to say. Some voters matter more than others. These voters, men 30 to 44, look at that. These voters, the men 30 to 44, and of course the Gen Xers, who are 45 to 64, they closely overlap anyway. Look at that. They were positive as early as last month, still clinging to 1, 2, like somewhat. There's not a single demographic group that is positive within the sampling era, and only a small section of millennial men were still positive, but they're not even positive, Robert. It's barely over 0. It's like everybody's gone. Everybody's gone. And look, the funny thing about this is that you didn't even cut your own arm off to keep your other arm. These other boomers bounced on you anyway. And all you have left are the stupid ass Sean Hannitys who believe this slop. It's not enough. Maybe they come pouring out in the villages, bro, for a rally. But the villages don't get you elected. Not even in Florida are the villages enough to get you elected anymore. So it's like it's unbelievably stupid that they decided to go this direction. And I'll put it up. I want to come back to this, but that's why we put up this generational demographic recently, because we talk about it all the time. But when you really see it, and you're like, oh my God, you just blew the future. You literally, like, it's not hyperbole to say Donald Trump sacrificed the future viability of the Republican Party. And Republicans did it too. They're not alone, but he's the man. He's not supposed to do it. All the other people are expected to betray the voters. Donald Trump is not. He was, that's the big issue. And that, more negative sentiment here, but that's the key that everybody needs to remember here. He was supposed to, and the reason they held on so long, and I'll end it here. The reason these millennial men and Generation X men didn't bail until just last week is because he was their only chance. That's how they feel. It's not like they were in love with him, guys. If you go back and look at the approval numbers, they're tepid at best. Only 20% of the country strongly approves of Donald Trump. These people were like, somewhat approve. What else? What's the alternative? Now they're just mad and they don't care anymore. More people strongly disapprove of the job Donald Trump is doing than the total number of people who approve of him combined. Think about that. And just to give people the number, it's about 45% strongly disapprove when only 40% approve overall between strongly and somewhat. And Robert, he was 0.2 from falling into the 30s in our poll. He was lucky as hell. 0.2 of a percentage point. But look, America's Personal Financial Situation Outlook by Gallup. Want to take it away?
Yeah. So, what this shows is, this is people's personal perception as to whether things are getting better or not. And the number that there was a spike of belief in 2024 that has now since collapsed, and now the number is as negative as it's been since global financial crisis time. So you're seeing this across multiple survey platforms, record level or extraordinary levels of negative and low ratings about the economy. And it's paramount amongst independent voters, working class voters, younger voters. Those are the groups that are the most disappointed, and it's because they don't think they can afford a home. They don't think they can even afford a car. A lot of them are underwater on their cars currently because a lot of them bought cars over the last several years with basically subprime lending. And so their cars, they owe more debt on their cars than their cars are worth. Now they can't afford gas to even go on a vacation. They say they can't afford to go out to eat anymore. So the kind of basic things that go to people's sense of living the good life, having a home, having a car, going on a nice vacation, going out to eat now and then. Those are the things that they now consider unaffordable and inaccessible. And you have a president talking about let's not have housing prices decline because I don't want my boomer constituent to be unhappy. You have a president talking about let's go and raid Cuba after Venezuela and after Iran. You have them watching the daily news of watching the gas prices and the oil prices and the energy prices and the diesel prices go up and up and up and up anywhere from 40 to 50 to 60% in just about a month's time. While the president was telling them, don't worry, that won't even happen. Well, conservative influencers are saying, don't worry, that won't even happen. And so while these numbers, unless there is a radical and dramatic economic reversal where people start to see their cost of living become dramatically more affordable, their wages drastically improve, their job circumstances really take a positive spike, their affordability and accessibility to housing and healthcare and cars and vacations and these kind of going out to eat, those kind of core everyday things that people want as the quality of life, that's the good life. As long as those things are out of reach or believed to be out of reach, then the political environment is going to be hostile to incumbents and hostile to the incumbent party, which is overwhelmingly the Republican Party at the federal level and even at a lot of state and local levels. And what we were seeing is now within that group, we can now shift to the redistricting. The problem is in Florida and Texas, a range of places, they're redistricting assuming 2024 baseline.
Right.
Just, on Sunday, the Hispanic parts of Beaumont, Texas, in a special election for the state Senate, swung by almost 50 points from their 2024 margin toward the Democrats. We're seeing Hispanic margins in Texas, in Florida, in Georgia, in Pennsylvania, in New Jersey, in Virginia. Everywhere there's an election, you're seeing Hispanic voters, even if sometimes it's town commissioner, that what you're seeing is levels of Democratic support that have not been seen in some cases ever. In some of these cases,
in some cases, never. Yeah.
I mean, in some of these counties that voted for Trump in the primaries, they voted 95 to 96% of them turned out and voted for the Democratic candidate in the primary. You're talking about 90 going from 45 to 55 Democrat to 95-5 Democrat.
Yep.
That's the kind of unbelievable shifts you're seeing, a complete collapse amongst young voters, amongst minority voters, amongst new Trump 2024 voters, and increasingly a collapse amongst the OG Trump voter group. So as we look, so this is what a liberal group put up. Now that the Supreme Court took their beloved time and finally got out an opinion at the end of April, which it was hard to know whether any of the states would.
Told you.
You have a bunch of states. This is the Barrett, Kavanaugh, and Roberts were really the ones that hold it up. People thought it was the liberal Democrats, but there were only three of them. They never had enough to hold it up. It was Barrett, Roberts, and Kavanaugh holding it up, likely because they don't want to be blamed for any 2026 Republican victories as being the racist in the room when they go to their parties at the Hamptons in the summer.
You're the new court. You're the Bush v. Gore court now.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't want to, and a lot of them were deeply involved in Bush v. Gore. In fact, Barrett and Kavanaugh were on the front end as lawyers involved with Bush v. Gore. So they wanted no association with that. So they sat on it, but it looks like Alabama, Florida, not Georgia, because Kemp, who still fancies himself a future president, which is a crock. That's never going to happen. But he doesn't have the guts. He in the Republican. For those that don't know the background of this deal was cut in the 1980s between the Republican country clubbers and the neoliberal corporate Democrats who wanted to stop populism in the South. Mm-hmm. That they were most concerned with Republican or Democratic populists building biracial coalitions. The same group that created the need for Voting Rights Act, the old Bourbon aristocracy of the South, that in the Bourbon Restoration of 1900 onwards. This is why the state of Mississippi had more white voters in 1860 than they did in 1900, because they weren't just trying to get rid of black voters. They were trying to get rid of all those poor and working class whites as well.
Yep.
They wanted no more of that populist rebellion they experienced between 1885 and 1900. And so when Voting Rights Act came in, it was basically designed to reboost the old populist coalition that people like Big Jim Folsom of Alabama and the Long family of Louisiana and some of these people have built political machines to get around it. But this was to make it easier, baby. And it worked to a certain degree. George Corley Wallace shifted from one kind of populist to a biracial populist overnight.
Yeah.
He went and rolled in the wheelchair to the black church and said, "I love Jesus. Jesus forgives me. Will you forgive me?" He did old school.
It was beautiful. No, seriously though, guys, it was beautiful. It was marvelous. It was genius. It was totally genius. This is what Trump isn't, because I keep getting calls and they're like, okay, Uncle, you were right. What do we do? Okay, go convince the president he has to apologize. You want to know what really you have to do? Go convince the president to do something Trump has never done in his entire life, but that other presidents who have been in detrimental career-ending positions where Donald Trump is right now, in case people haven't noticed, he's not going to make it through his second term at this rate, guys. He's not. There will be Republicans in the Senate who vote to convict him. He's not going to make it at this rate. You have to convince the guy to sister soldier this shit. That's the only way forward, bro. And then he's got to actually do things, including this. Republicans, which he can't control this on his own, but he can make it so politically a politically non-viable option to sit on your hands instead of redistrict. How do you do that? Make yourself more popular. He's out there acting like he's Mr. Popular, bro. He's not. Like, he can defeat Thomas Massie and afford to slice another 4 to 6 points off the coalition, and keep them up. You're not popular right now, broski. You're not in that position. You need every single voter possible. One of the best ways to do it is say, you know what? We got off track with Iran. I'm sorry. I am laser focused on your needs from now on. I'm kicking Benjamin Netanyahu out of here and telling him to go, deal with his own bullshit. And that's it. Like, guys, just so you guys know, like, we're not leaving. He's not trying to get us to leave NATO because it was the original part of the plan in, his first administration. I want to leave NATO, but the point, I don't want to leave it just so we can help Israel attack Turkey, who's a member NATO ally. This is our future right now. If this doesn't wake up. So like, there's no way other than that, Robert. Like, people always say, oh, it's early. It's not. Oh, well, we can do this. There's no silver bullet at this point. You have to sister soldier this, bro. Like, you have to, because Kemp, he suspended those primaries for COVID on a Saturday, 10 days before the primary, just so everybody understands. They're coming out now, and you got fat Eric Erickson saying he's an election lawyer, he's an expert, and, that's impossible under Georgia law. Okay, rewind the time, you idiot. Kemp suspended the primary 10 days before the primary on a Saturday, nonetheless. And the votes were already being cast, the early votes. Raffensperger just said, we're going to put them aside and we'll count them when the new date is. We're going to keep them and we'll count them when the new primary day comes. That's what they did. So they could do it for COVID, but they can't do it for their survival now? No, because Robert is exactly right. What he's telling you about this, like, these stupid Southern Republican country club gentlemen who are perfectly okay living and whining and dining with a bunch of radical woke leftists instead of you. The truth is, they don't like you. Kemp's going to be president. What a joke. Brian Kemp's not going to make it out of 3 states, bro. Are you kidding me? What state is Brian Kemp going to win? Which one? Iowa? New Hampshire? And how is he going to do? Rolling into South Carolina, a neighboring state, which is totally different demographically. Get out of here, bro. He's not, it's a joke.
The old country club Republicans were very much at ease with these stacking and packing black voters into one district, because what it did is it stripped Democratic candidates' ability and Republican candidates' ability to run on a populist biracial coalition message. And it allowed Republicans to be lily white districts that the country clubbers could dominate, and the black districts to be so dominated by black voters that the money interest rather than the populist instinct within black voters would be represented. And so you've got neoliberal black voters, black representatives of black voters who are completely divorced from the populist history of those constituencies. People that looked a lot more like Barack Obama than Jesse Jackson or Martin Luther King, politically in their profile, ideologically, and that side, and they're happy with it. So they're not happy with this possible unleashing, resurrection of populism in the South. And that's why Alabama's governor tried to say no initially. Georgia's governor is saying no. There's people in South Carolina that don't want to offend Congressman Clyburn's district and the political power he has long held. There's the It looks like in Louisiana, it looks like they'll go forward, even though they had already started their primaries. But as you pointed out, that is not a legitimate excuse post-COVID because they stopped all those primaries right in the middle of them.
They were voting.
Yeah, exactly. People were voting all the way through. So it looks like the only ones that are going to actually redistrict are Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina, Louisiana, Florida, and Texas already has.
Let me move us over. Yep.
And there's still a chance some of them don't. I think Alabama is not going to have the guts to take out both districts. I think they're only going to likely take out one. We'll get to Florida's got a whole different issue on their hands because of, we'll get to it's Florida state constitution that's the problem, not the VRA. In Georgia, they're not going to redistrict, so nothing's going to happen there. Obviously, same with Indiana, Kansas. The Kentucky's not going to redistrict because they're so late on the schedule and they don't want to interrupt the schedule. Louisiana is going to redistrict, but I don't know if they'll take out both districts. I think they probably only take out. I think like Alabama, they only take out one. Mississippi, I think, does take out their one district because they're Mississippi. But we'll get to that a little bit later. I don't think North Carolina,
grip, man.
Exactly. North Carolina, Ohio are not going to. I think Tennessee will because Blackburn is pushing it like crazy and she's running for governor. Yeah, that's good. But I think we'll get into what that might mean in terms of how they do it. They got to be a little bit careful. And then South Carolina is the one I'm not sure of. But I think basically at the end of the day, you're likely seeing 5 districts, not the 12 to 20 that's being talked about in some circles. I think Republicans, because of Georgia and their reluctance to actually do it and their reluctance to go full throttle on them, I think you're seeing Republicans add 5 districts. Now, turning back to this Florida, where you could have 4 or 5 added districts. The issue there is the state constitution that they passed in 2010 that said you can't do partisan redistricting. And that's where I wish somebody would have advised DeSantis. I got the pitch of, hey, look, voting rights act is going to get struck down. So now I can use that to redistrict. That was the right pitch to me. He should have only talked about that and not been talking about, look at the partisan redistricting.
I tried. Yep.
Yeah, we can do because the Florida state constitution explicitly prohibits partisanship being considered. And the problem is there's a long record now of the governor saying, hey, we're going to partisan redistrict.
Brother, I'm like, does nobody read this stuff? Like, when you run for office, you could be the majority leader of the House, the Senate leader, the governor of the damn state. Do you not read the state constitution? It's clear as day. You can't have the governor out there. Because people will always, and this is the number one question I got asked when I tried to convey this to people. And they were like, well, I mean, in what case isn't it partisan? You know, it's unrealistic. I'm like, right. But when it's intended and you're on record and you're laying a laundry list of prior statements that, they're going to bring to the judge. And when they try to strike it down, they're going to it's a litany of comments from the guy. Like, you gave them all the ammunition they could possibly use. It's as though I just want to say there are a couple of states, guys, that there are efforts. I mean, like I know Bannon and others are like, there are people doing their level best to try to bully these people into doing it. I mean, it is a bully effort. Like, look, we'll come back for you. You may survive right now, but we're going to come for you sons of bitches if you don't do this now. And it's good that they are. I just don't know how successful they're going to be. And the fact is, this has to be added, and as part of this big bold action to make us not look like the party of Benjamin Netanyahu. We have to add this as a clarion call, because if Republicans get beat as bad as it looks like they're going to get beaten, they will, whatever tiny spine they have, Robert, will be gone come the next attempt to redistrict before, and it will be for the presidential cycle. So. And by the way, not for nothing, but they'll also have a lot of states where, they'll probably maintain control, but they'll have much weaker majorities, much weaker. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is that this ruling on the Voting Rights Act about, racial gerrymandering is unconstitutional. Won't matter if Republicans don't do this right now. I mean, will it matter on the margins? Yes. But the numbers that I'm seeing on X, people are like, we're going to get 25 through this way and, 30 through this way. And since Democrats can only win as much as 30, we could keep the House. And I'm just like, You have got to be kidding me. You might be lucky to get 10 at this rate. Like at this rate. And I think I'm being generous with that, because I could see a situation where Florida gets held up, things get jammed up in the court system. It's a problem. They have to give them back that one more seat, that was debated over the prior iteration. They'll have to give them that seat back to cut some kind of a deal. So immediately off the rip, Robert, I mean, that takes it down, one seat. So, Texas is done. It's baked into the cake already. So where are all these numbers coming from, bro? North Carolina, they're trying, but they're...
And that's the next thing we should talk about. That Florida, Texas, and they're talking about trying to get it in court in Arizona and potentially Nevada. The problem is, in all 4 of those cases, they are presuming a certain 2024 baseline of Hispanic voter support. And what we're seeing is that has completely collapsed.
Which I told them would happen.
Correct. And so I don't see those seats being as Republican friendly as they think they are.
They're not. Sorry, go ahead. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, as to Nevada, as to those, that Florida heavily reliant upon a Hispanic vote baseline. One Democratic analyst said if the Hispanic vote shifted, the redistricting would actually add a Democratic seat out of Florida because they're so heavily relying on the Hispanic vote baseline. And if the baseline shift that we've seen since November of 2024 reoccurs in November of 2026, what looks like Republican redistricting will actually end up being Democratic redistricting in Florida, in Texas, and maybe even Arizona and Nevada if they try to go through there. So
Which
I think
California knew, by the way, and that's why they redrew those, especially through the Central Valley, the way that they did, because they were like, you know what, they're going to lose. They're not getting Trump support. You could already see it. John Duarte, Mike Garcia, all of them. They did not get non-white support at the levels Donald Trump did. That's why Duarte lost his district and Trump won it by 5. You know what? His own county, by the way, his own home county. All right. So I told all those guys in Texas, including the man himself, you cannot draw this to Donald Trump's vote margin, because you guys already aren't capable of getting it outside of a midterm when there's been low turnout and it was favorable to you. Outside of that, Donald Trump is literally the only example of being able to hit these numbers with Hispanics. And oh, by the way, in case you missed it, he won about 30% of the black male vote. So in some of these urban districts where you're thinking they're just heavily Hispanic and that's all there is to it, there's actually a lot of black men who at best will not show up to vote for you in a midterm cycle. This is registered voters, and we can see a near negative 20-point swing with Hispanics. The problem is the likely voter. That's the real problem. So on the generic ballot going into 2024, because there was some idiot, another wannabe on Twitter who can't read and misread the poll. It's so humiliating. These people, they embarrass themselves. It's the same idiot who couldn't read a partisan affiliation trend about a month and a half ago. I mean, guys, if you can't read, don't try your hand at being a fake polling expert, okay? It's just, it's going to end badly for you. You look stupid to those of us who actually do know what we're doing. Going into 24, Trump had about 45% Hispanic support, 43, 45, somewhere in the neighborhood. And Republicans had under 40, 37, 38. The final poll that we had was like 37, but with a subgroup sampling error, it wasn't at all surprising to see they got about 40, right? And Trump outpaced them by about 6 or 7 points, depending on which one you believe. Did they get 38? Did they get 40? Depending on what gauge you believe. Well, again, now they're sitting in the low 30s among registered voters, and that's registered voters, because we've been seeing this with a lot of these special polls, Rob, where they're saying, yeah, I mean, whatever, I somewhat approve. I guess I would vote for the Republican, and either they're lying or they don't. They go out and for the Democrat. And great example was in Texas, where I was like, this is a 5-alarm fire. Those aren't the voters you were bringing up before. Those aren't just like new registrants that they put on the rolls. We know exactly how many Hispanic votes are in those counties. Those are people who voted for Donald Trump in the general election, but then participated in the Democratic primary this time around. Starr County, Zapata, Hidalgo. This is cataclysmic. Like, this is a huge problem. So even among registered They're down almost 20. It's like 17.2, I think I see over there. Right? Something like 17.1, whatever, very close. But among likely, it's like Mitt Romney level, bro. And by the way, again, caution, sampling errors for subgroups are higher, and they could very well get like 21% of the Hispanic vote. You know, like it absolutely could happen. And we're seeing, are we not seeing that in Florida that you brought up? How much did the Hispanic vote have to swing in those specials, even in Donald Trump's own district? You're talking 40-point swings, 50-point swings in New Jersey districts that were key. This is like huge mistake to write those maps based on his benchmark support. Huge mistake. Go ahead, though.
Yeah, no doubt. The now we can transition into the primaries. This will have some impact on the electoral environment.
Sorry, he just came in. Dad, I got a tooth. Like, oh, awesome! It's a nasty little tooth. Wow. Go ahead, let's go.
Oh yeah. Now we got the primaries for May and June. We'll focus on the ones coming up. Yeah. Again, their schedule is not quite clear yet. It looks like some are going to stay as scheduled, some are going to move. But I thought first we could start out with one that's going to move. Is Louisiana. That's going to move at some level. How much it moves, we'll see. But the Louisiana Senate race is the big race there. Yep. And what's interesting is after Trump's team came in and endorsed the worst possible opponent of Bill Cassidy. So Bill Cassidy is the incumbent, but this is the guy who voted for Trump's removal, who for impeachment, who has waged war on Robert Kennedy, has prevented Casey Means from being Surgeon General, is big pushing the COVID Fauci agenda, and the aggregate of that has him very underwater with Louisiana voters. The second thing to know is that for the first time in quite a while, Louisiana now has party registration closed primaries. It used to be a jungle primary where everybody ran. Whoever finished first and second then went into a runoff. Yep. Now each party has its own primary, but critically, if you're an independent voter in Louisiana, you can just go and vote in the primary of your choice. So some primaries like Kentucky and elsewhere, you have to be a registered Republican to vote in the Republican primary, registered Democrat in the Democratic primary. That is not the case in Louisiana. So in Louisiana, you can be a what's called non-party, the no party affiliation. And there's variations of that. Sometimes people don't register as independent. They're called unaffiliated or non-party, depends on the state's laws. Yeah. But non-party, and that's big in Louisiana because a lot of their voters are just ancestrally registered. The only ones that are excluded are the ancestral Democrats that kept voting Republican. Yeah. They're trying to, in Louisiana, force those voters to convert to being Republican. But so this is the first time there's been a closed primary process in quite a while in Louisiana. Cassidy is running. Julie Letlow was the Trump choice because the corrupt corporate crony donor class told Trump to sign on. He later admitted to people he probably made a mistake, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, and I got a call about it, by the way. And they literally asked me, was this a mistake? And I was like, are you kidding me? First of all, you screwed one of your all-time most fair pollsters. I'm not going to say who it is, but one of the more fair pollsters who honestly is having an issue now, but was backing another candidate, personal friends with them. This is a pollster that goes back like with us, Robert, from the beginning, like took a lot of flack, showing Trump had support that others did not show he had, showing not only like was Trump going to beat Hillary, but it was likely that Trump was going to beat Hillary. It was like total different narrative than what the mainstream media narrative was. So like we're talking about a loyalist here. And Trump comes in because it's about a few things, guys, unfortunately. One, his corny ass endorsement record, which I ripped them over the weekend with the Andy Barr endorsement. I don't know what's going to happen as a consequence of what I said and what I did over the weekend, bro. But like that Andy Barr endorsement, I fucking lost my shit. I popped the cork and I lost it. I was like, you know what? You're going to be they're going to be fucking removed. They're going to drag your asses out of here. And you know what? Andy Barr is going to fucking vote to do it. And it's your own fucking fault. Like, that's it. It's your own fault. Like, Andy Barr is a Trump hating piece of shit. He's going to be a problem in the U.S. Senate for 6 years. They kept saying Nate's not catching on. He's not catching on. In fact, that's kind of not true. He was catching on about as much as we saw like Blake Masters and JD Vance catch on before Donald Trump came in and endorsed them. He cares about his endorsement record, which is corny because all he had to do was govern as he said he would, and he could have gotten anybody nominated that he wanted. He could have gotten their super PAC funded no matter what. And that's the second consideration. How much of a super PAC do they have so Chris LaCivita and Tony Fabrizio can continue to stuff their fucking pockets and build new homes? Like their fourth home, their third home, their whatever. Like these guys are rich guys beyond your wildest dreams, and MAGA's burning while they get rich. Burning. And then the third thing, unfortunately, Tucker's right. This AIPAC situation is out of control. It's totally out of control. What Marian Adelson wants, what the Israel lobby wants, this is killing us. It isn't killing us. It's about to permanently, not permanent, but for a long time, kill us. Notice Julia Letlow is actually ahead in the calcium markers, 58, even though the polling does not show her ahead. It's close, but she's down to John Fleming. She's been down. And it's just unbelievable that Trump would then go and endorse somebody, even though that pollster never asked for anything from him, bro. Nothing.
Exactly.
All these years, 10 years, he never asked for anything from him.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Cassidy is radioactive with, sort of OG Trump 2024 voters due to his support of impeachment removal, due to his opposition to any relief for January 6th voters, due to his support of COVID and Fauci, due to his support of vaccine mandates, due to his opposition to Maha and Kennedy. But then Trump came in and endorsed Julie Letlow, a congresswoman who is hated by Maha, as seen as bad as Cassidy on Maha issues. And that was the number one issue that Maha voters had in Louisiana, was Cassidy's bad record on Maha. And Trump went and endorsed the corporate crony candidate, the rhino candidate, the establishment candidate, the anti-Maha candidate.
Horrible.
What he mistook is the nature. Louisiana's got deep populist roots. And even though this is a Republican primary only electorate, that doesn't change that as more and more populist voters flood into the Republican primary. So it drove Blake Miguez, who I thought was a very good populist candidate with some approval from Cajun country, out of the race. But what it did is it gave Fleming is a congressman from longtime northwest Louisiana. Grew up in hill country in Mississippi. Father died when he was 17. Mother was a nurse who got disabled, so he had to pay his way through college and med school. He did so by going into the Navy. A Baptist deacon kind of personality. Starts a little almost ma and pa local family doctor shop in a small town in northwest Louisiana. He gets the small business bug next. He's one of those guys. He's got to always be achieving something. So he goes out and organizes, gets 35 different Subways. Then he opens up a bunch of, franchisee. Then he opens up a bunch of UPS stores in small towns, decides to run for office, gets elected for Congress, thought about running for the Senate in 2014, then decided not to. 2016, he does, but that was the jungle primary. So he finishes 5th, but that, remember, includes all the Democratic candidates. He then goes and works for President Trump in his first term in the health department, and is close with Mark Meadows. When he was in Congress, he was one of the original Freedom Caucus guys. So he's a budget hawk guy. He's someone who actually wanted to deliver on on repealing and replacing Obamacare at the time. Religious conservative, big on anti-immigration, big on anti-abortion, big on gun rights, Second Amendment rights.
Yep.
So in those kind of issues, he's got old school, more like Tea Party conservatism than Maha or MAGA conservatism. But he worked for Mark Meadows. He was one of those few guys to stand with Trump all the way to the end when everybody else was jumping ship in January of 2021. He comes home in Louisiana, runs for state treasurer, wins. Gets a good reputation as to how he handles the state treasurer's office. And that's built a statewide reputation. Senator John Kennedy also got his original backing from being a state treasurer, and when he won in 2016. And so so he decides to enter the race, doesn't have a lot of money, isn't backed by the big boys. Trump doesn't endorse. Trump later apologizes to him for not endorsing, saying, why didn't I endorse you? That's where Trump's at.
I love this guy. Why are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't endorse him.
He was really loyal, really good.
No, bro, stop smelling your own farts. You didn't endorse him, bro. They got you to endorse somebody else so they can get their super PAC money from AIPAC.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what all that was about. Letlow was the least liked candidate amongst your OG conservative base in Louisiana and Maha. One of the very smart things that that he did was join the Maha revolution because he saw the Tea Party overlap. So Fleming jumped into Maha early in 2024, was very pro-Kennedy, very pro, questioning aspects of the COVID mandates and all the rest, has been harsh. He ran against Cassidy because he said Cassidy is abandoned and is anti-Maha, and particularly on Kennedy. So he formed a coalition with that, under sort of no one's paying attention, under the radar, built a grassroots coalition of people who are concerned with specific forms of carbon capture in Louisiana, and the old Tea Party base, the Freedom Caucus base, the Second Amendment base, and the pro-life base, and the Maha base. So he got all the grassroots people behind him, and everybody's been asleep at the wheel while he's been surging, and he doesn't have to finish first out of the gate. He just needs to finish. They still have a runoff system. So all he's got to do is finish second, at least second. And if you look at the underlying votes, where are Cassidy's votes going to go in a runoff? They are more likely to go to him than her. And so Cassidy's likely to finish in the low 20s, is not even going to make the runoff. That's how badly he's performing in Louisiana.
Yeah, he's getting crushed.
But Letlow, even with Trump's endorsement, is not getting very far because she had no support from the grassroots. They think there was another case where they thought they could just buy the race. They're discovering they can't just buy the race. And my free pick here for the show will be take Fleming to be the next senator from the state of Louisiana, which you can get around 30%. You can get it 40% from just to become the next Republican nominee. Because I think Fleming is going to win the primary, and I think he's got strong enough conservative bona fides in a state that still leans heavily right that he will win the general election in the fall.
Yeah, it's interesting. They have on DDHQ, which I could put up, but I guess I see what they're doing. They have Cassidy just like honestly, I'm a little stunned how high they have Cassidy. But you may notice I was just rifling through all of this AIPAC stuff. They have, it's the money. That's why DDHQ is doing it. So Fleming, again, on the credible public polling that's not connected to anybody's super PAC or a group or something like that, Fleming is ahead. It's close, but he is ahead. Recent poll that came out on April 30th had Letlow ahead, and it's not look, people are taking it seriously because it's done by a private pollster that is well known, but they had her at 28, they had John Fleming at 26, and Bill Cassidy at 24, which was higher than public polls tend to have Cassidy. But look at, if you just rifle through the AIPAC track in Louisiana among Republicans, all you have is millions of dollars in Zion, and this is real first Zionist money. It's like you don't really have a choice outside of John Fleming if you want someone who doesn't take money from Israel and the Israel lobby. Like, that's it. Like, it's unbelievable. Yeah. Look at this.
And no doubt. And the thing is, Fleming has a long history of ties to the Israel community, but it wasn't. He wasn't
from them.
Yeah, he wasn't considered deferential enough and completely loyal in such a way that a guy that's been very pro-Israel, it was excluded from the cash. And we can move on to the Texas race, the Texas runoff race. Then we'll cover South Carolina, then Kentucky 4. But there'll be a common pattern here, which is the endorsed or people affiliated with Trump-backed candidate believed that they could buy the race. They can buy primaries and buy midterms and buy general elections. They think their money edge with the Israel First donor base thrown in with some crypto boys and Wall Street crew and AI folks, those folks that are intermingled now, doing all kinds of side deals with foreign nations, enriching, just look at Forbes. Trump's wealth has gone up more in a year of being in the presidency than all the prior presidents before him combined.
Unbelievable.
And that doesn't even get to what his sons are making, to what other family members are making, to what other friends are making. But the belief was no worries, no problem, because Trump will pardon everybody. But not only that, we'll be able to buy the House, we'll be able to buy the Senate by spending ungodly sums of money, and that will be enough. And what you'll see is we just talk about the primaries here before we get to the midterms.
Yeah.
In fact, that is backfiring and not working. Because you can spend all the money in the world, you're not going to convince a voter the economy is suddenly good when they can't afford basic things.
I can't.
No matter how much Number one. Number two, it's been BoomerCon slop on steroids. They're just doing old school 1980s style TV advertising that doesn't even reach many of these new young voters.
Who rich? Who does that get rich? That gets these two slobs rich beyond their wildest dream, even richer. Because guys, they're freaking loaded. Do you have any idea how much you make if you control that PAC the way LaCivita controls John Cornyn's PAC, and you spend $100 million across these groups? Do you have any idea how much that guy made doing that? And then he's going to go in and he's going to do this again with all of the TV ads, which is his shtick. He does that shit. This is why he thinks, because I've seen all their internal polls, like a bunch of them, and they're all just boomers. It's like they model the electorate the same in the Texas runoff that they would model the electorate in Kentucky for, even though there's no growth for boomers in Kentucky for, and all of the new registrants are between the age 18 to 44. All right. It's like even prior primaries in Kentucky for actually are not that boomer, but that's how they model it because that's who they're targeting. What Robert's trying to say, because I think this is really important, the way they're doing this is killing MAGA, number one. But number two, these are Pyrrhic victories, even if they were to win these primaries, even if Cornyn wins in Texas, even if Ed Gall, you're winning a primary by getting out boomers and chasing away your other coalition. You're actually depressing the winning part of your coalition so you can get out the boomer slop, and that's it. And then when we come to the general election, you're going to what? Ask for those very people that you just shit all over to come out and support you anyway, even though these candidates, they don't like them? It's not going to happen. You're living in a fantasy. And again, I'll repeat that boomers, the ones who support Donald Trump and the ones who support Republicans, are not even a majority of boomers. So I don't know, like, what is the fucking strategy here? It seems to be just make Chris as much money as possible. That seems to be the only strategy. And by the way, people are waking up to it now. I got a call after Virginia by somebody. I was stunned, a White House person, and they were like, he's got to go. And I'm like, oh my God. So what they basically were saying is like, fucking hit this guy. Hit this guy from every angle. Give us air cover. The president's not happy. Go to town. So like, and I'm like, hey, that's not my job, but I'll give people air cover who I know he's going to get in trades with. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's going to happen. I already know a lot of the truth of the stories. So, I mean, if he's a world-class bullshitter and misdirector, like attacking Aiden for his arrest, his drug arrest, because he was addicted to opioids. Well, that's real. That sounds real familiar. That kind of disgusting shit hits right at home. I thought MAGA and America First were supposed to have sympathy for all of the people who were victims of the opioid epidemic that our ruling class thrusted on us while they stole our fortunes and our wealth and our jobs and sent them overseas. I thought that's what MAGA was all about. America First was all about. Instead, you'd stoop so low to attack a kid who turned his life around and is doing as much as he can and contributing as much as he can to the cause. By the way, in a you may not like it, but in a way that does appeal to those younger groups, Robert, like he's speaking those languages, right? So you would do that just to what? Misdirect from your fucking failure in Virginia because you fucked everything up. You screwed everything up. Like you set back the party a generation in Virginia, so you got to attack Aiden with some disgusting attack like that. Like, dude, it's textbook scumbag shit. It seems like there's no rhyme or reason other than to make these MAGA grifters rich. And they are MAGA grifters, bro. That guy wanted Donald Trump thrown in jail after January 6th. I don't give a shit how much the president likes him now. It just goes to show you how the president doesn't make all the great personnel choices. That's it. running around town saying that my discipline is why Donald Trump got elected. Bro, Donald Trump got elected because of Donald Trump. You didn't have shit to do with it. Corey Lewandowski didn't have shit to do with it the first time either. He's Donald Trump. You don't take his fucking credit from him. You're nothing. You fucking went along for the ride. You're a fucking parasite. You're a fucking remora that latches onto the shark as the shark swims through, bro. You're a footnote in the... You don't deserve to get rich while the party fucking burns like this. That's what's happening, bro. Like, where the fuck is everybody? They don't have any balls?
Yeah, we're talking about Chris LaCivita. I call him Chris.
I went off on
Chris LaLue-Zer, like Laura LaLue-Zer down in Florida, that is making huge amounts of money, working with people like Tony Fabrizio. Yeah, Tony Fabrizio, the pollster, who does fake polls, who works for foreign nations while he's lobbying the president of the United States. He he's a foreign, he should be under FAR, under multiple places. He's the guy who convinced the White House to not pursue a Maha agenda on vaccines coming up to the midterms.
The tax codes are going to be
while he is receiving money from Pfizer. So you got people like Chris LaCivita with ties to Pfizer, people like Tony Fabrizio with ties to Pfizer. So these are corrupt corporate lobbyists who have hijacked all of the Republican campaign funds and hijacked Trump's endorsements to enrich themselves and their corporate clients and foreign clients at the expense of MAGA and Maha. But what we're going to see in these primaries is a preview of the disaster that it is going to be, that these two losers are going to create for the Republican Party in the midterms. And take Texas. In Louisiana, should have had an easy road to go. Got Blake Miguez out, got other people out, got Landry not to run, and then all they do is turn around and endorse the worst possible candidate and are now likely to lose that primary race. In Texas, they got the Republican Senate Campaign Committee to give over $100 million to John Cornyn, even though Cornyn is an old Bush establishment, pro-impeachment, pro-removal, pro-amnesty Republican.
He's here for amnesty. He's openly said the only reason why he wants another term is because he wants to pay back his big agriculture and his big hospitality donors who have been giving to him over the years. This is an open secret, just so everybody understands. This is an open secret. And if Trump is dealing with a Senate like Andy Barr and John Cornyn, bro, I like Nate, but an ambassador lasts for about as long as a presidency does, Nate. And guess what? This one ain't going to last much longer at this rate. A senator lasts for 6 years. And once he starts stuffing all that AIPAC money into his pocket, he's going to be incredibly difficult to get rid of. And imagine having Andy Barr and John Cornyn in the Senate with Susan Collins if she's reelected, which I don't think she will be at this. I think Plattner's going to destroy her at this rate. But they will pass this amnesty. I got friends like on suicide watch at TPUSA, bro, because they got to keep quiet and they know behind the scenes, they have very good access. They can see what's going on. And they're like, dude, I don't even know how we move forward if they do this. I don't know how we move forward if they, how do we put lipstick on this? There's no way. That's the end. You could put lipstick on the war, maybe, right? You could try. Well, it's not going to work, but you could try. You can't put lipstick on an amnesty, bro.
You see a common story thread here in Texas because Ken Paxton, the populist attorney general, true Trump loyalist in a way Cornyn never has been. Yeah. He is only able to raise about $5 million in one of the most expensive states to campaign in the country because of their very expensive media market, just the size of the state. But you've got very expensive media markets in Dallas and in Houston, in Austin, San Antonio, but particularly Dallas and Austin, but in other districts to reach. You've got a very spread out state geographically. You've got a lot of new entrants into the Republican Party primary process there. And despite the $100 million plus spent for Cornyn, 20-1 edge, and Cornyn being the 20 plus year incumbent from the state of Texas.
Disgusting.
He barely even limps into a runoff.
There it is.
Chris LaCivita makes the mistake of saying Trump has endorsed Cornyn before Trump has endorsed him. And so Trump decides finally to be like, maybe I should not stick my nose into this. Other smart people told him, Paxton's going to win even if you endorse Cornyn. You don't want that embarrassment. You don't want that humiliation. And so he backed off at the last minute. There's still no guarantee, as we just saw from Kentucky, that he won't try to stick his nose into this race. But I think even if he does, Paxton will still win. So I think Paxton is the favorite to win this. And it'll be another example of a guy with OG MAGA roots, with strong ties to Maha, running on Maha aggressively in Texas, sued Pfizer, represent on the COVID vaccine, intervened on behalf of Dr. Bowden against the state medical board's efforts to harass her. Is intervening against a wide range of, whether it's election irregularities, whether it's public health issues that are connected to Maha, whether it's Second Amendment protection issues, whether it's illegal immigration issues. Paxton has used the Attorney General's office more effectively than any Attorney General in the history of the state of Texas.
You're
going to see the grassroots put him over the top, and it'll be another example of Trump's endorsement, Trump's political machine, and all the money doesn't matter anymore. That the grassroots is shifting in a different direction. They want true MAGA Maha kind of policies, OG MAGA policies, Maha policies, Second Amendment policies, immigration enforcement policies, less warmongering focus, foreign focus policies. And I think Paxton, my free pick for the show is that Paxton will in fact be nominated. And I think Paxton is the only one who can win. Like, another way you could do this is just Cornyn to be elected the next senator. Because even if he wins the nomination, if Cornyn somehow, he will lose the general election at Tallarico. What people are missing is Texas shifted. Yeah. Go back and have the Hispanic vote. Now it's going to be tight even for Paxton. Look at the Mexican American vote.
A 2-point race, guys. 1 to 2 points. It will.
Yeah, put the Mexican American margins back to 2012 margins. Then take the suburbs and move them to 2020 margins.
Yeah.
And when you do those two things, Texas and Florida are dead even races in a +10 Democratic electorate like what we're looking at. And so that's why Texas is going to be very close in the general election. But if Republicans want to keep it, make sure Ken Paxton is the nominee.
And we have polled this race. It's not a public thing. We have polled this race at the behest of somebody. I would say ballpark because Change has always got this like very high undecided number because they're like mostly online panels. And in a midterm cycle, because I personally, I've been a big advocate for online collection, but in a midterm cycle, you have got to have phone in there because you're looking at much more higher propensity turnout. You're looking at much more high interest vote. You're not wanting to cast this big net like you are with online collection, which benefits you in a presidential cycle because you're trying to see who may vote that otherwise doesn't normally vote. It's like always a story. Who's that new voter or who are we missing? Like in the case of 2012, when we were missing, you'll be able to do that better with some of these newer collection methods, but you have to do the phone, especially with these primaries on the Republican side. I would say it's, probably closer to Qantas, right? And Texas Public Opinion Research, which I find is funny because they keep saying that this is a first of its kind, nonpartisan survey. Dude, this guy was the chief strategist for the Texas Democratic Party. He was an elected official at one point. There's nothing nonpartisan about this. There's nothing public about this. He bills it like it's our project, the public polling project. And like it's independently funded, Robert, by it's not. And then, by the way, when that poll went out, you saw all the Democratic talking points because Tallarico was beating Cornyn. All right. So what we're seeing, because I think what we do better than most is determine who's going to vote. And that's it. Like, preference is relatively easy to figure out, guys. The hard part is determining who's going to vote. I'm telling you, 30% will not show up for John Cornyn. And he will lose to Tallarico by about 2 points because you're not going to be able to rely on these other people that Ken Paxton, he has baggage, but he also comes with the fire. And you have to put a fire in people's belly to get them out. So the question is, the number that Ken Paxton gets out, does it exceed the number that he turns off? of those voters who would otherwise vote for Cornyn? The answer is yes. 30%, based on 3 different metrics, will not vote for John Cornyn. They will teach Chris LaCivita and the Republican Party a lesson, and they will stay home, or they'll just leave that shit blank. They will do it. And I'm telling you, watch, go ahead, do it in your own risk, guys. You know, you want to nominate Cornyn, do so at your own risk. You will definitely have a Democratic senator, because they're just done with this, bro. They're like done with the performative shit. They're over it. Paxton has put up results, and that's why, you know, you have to spend $100 million. Just so people understand, Ken Paxton spent about $4.5 million to get the results that we just showed you before. Cornyn spent $100 million. And he got 42% of the vote. So did he outperform his polling? Yes, but he did so because he spent $100 million. This is a second round of voting where the much, more, the base shows up to vote more. They're much more reliable. And look, I'm sure TPUSA is going to be engaged there. They are. Bannon is engaged there. I just don't know, man. I don't see it. I don't see it for Cornyn. Maybe I'm wrong, and he pulls some crap because of the way this, the early vote, comes in very heavily for him. It will come in heavily for him, but I just don't see, I just don't see an appetite for him in the polling. And 2, I think Republicans are smart enough to realize if Cornyn is nominated, they will lose that seat. And people are like having a hard time coming to grips with the fact that Texas, which just voted for Trump by double digits, will swing that much and vote for a Democrat. Guys, if MAGA didn't come out in force in 18 because they were still so loyal to Trump and did not want him impeached, then Ted Cruz would have lost to Beto O'Rourke. MAGA saved his ass. Ted Cruz would not be able to do that again today. He would lose again today. The only reason why he won by a landslide again in 24 is because Donald Trump was on the ballot and he wasn't, full-blown a Netanyahu shill at that point. Voters are mad, man. I'm telling you, they will make Republicans pay if they nominate Cornyn. If they continue with it's like, I don't know, another salt in the wound, but the betrayal's open wound, and they do shit like that. Like, guys, they spend 12% of everything. Chris controls everything, national money, including Trump's money. They spend 12% of everything they have combined to defend John Cornyn in the first round alone. Yet, Robert, they couldn't put another 4 or 5, 10 even million in Virginia to keep 4 seats. They're so stupid, bro. I don't know, but I'm with you. I think that you really hit the most important thing about Texas, to me, in my mind. You're not getting those Hispanics back. John Cornyn is not getting those Hispanics back. They're gone, bro. They're voting for Tallarico. The only way you can win is if you drive the Anglo vote super high and you win it by big margins, and that is Paxton. Cornyn ain't doing that shit. He's not doing it. They'll stay home.
Yeah, and I think that takes us to the third race we're going to cover before we get to the last primary. And that is South Carolina. So the South Carolina Senate up in early June. This is Lindsey Graham against Mark Lynch. Paul Dans dropped out a couple of weeks ago and endorsed Mark Lynch. And, I'll give credit to people like Fleming and Paxton and Dans. Yeah. Fleming was offered the CDC position if he would drop out. He refused. Paxton was offered a range of positions if he would drop out. He refused. Yep. Paul Dans was offered a range of things if he would drop out and endorse Graham. He did not. He endorsed Lynch instead. Whereas Nathan Morris showed that he was not the person, frankly, that Charlie Kirk and others thought he was, because Trump offers him a low-level ambassadorship that means very little. In order to drop out. And for those that don't know, in Kentucky, the Senate, we were going to talk about the Kentucky Senate race, but it's been mooted because Nate Morris dropped out. Andy Barr was endorsed by President Trump. Barr is Mitch McConnell's choice to be the next senator of Kentucky.
Yep.
So Donald Trump just deferred to Mitch McConnell for the choice for the Kentucky Senate. A candidate, Elon Musk was supporting Nate Morris.
I have videos.
JD Vance was supporting Nate Morris. Andy Barr is someone who will vote for the removal of President Trump in 2027. Heartbeat. Mark my words.
Heartbeat.
That is who Trump just endorsed and made the next senator from the state of Kentucky, because he goes along with what his big money donors demand he do, rather than actually endorse people that would be good for his own political interest. And he's letting Mitch McConnell once again make a little bitch out of Donald Trump in his Kentucky endorsement.
And it's humiliating to watch. It's so hard to watch. Let me play a clip. I got a 30-second clip. There were also clips of Trump I was going to play. We can come back to them, but this is Andy Barr, guys. Okay, just so take our word for it. All right, here's Andy Barr.
Obviously, the president bears some responsibility. His action and words obviously were very regrettable in many respects, and he is not blameless. Well, obviously, some Republicans will be voting for impeachment. Some of my colleagues, I don't think a large number, but some will. And I respect colleagues in my party and then on the other side who have to make a decision for themselves.
You fucking retard. That guy is going to vote to convict you in a heartbeat, Donald, in a heartbeat. You guys are so, honestly, there comes a point, Robert, where you have to say you deserve it.
Well, and Nate Morris, Elon gets this was the last candidate, Nate Morris, that Charlie Kirk endorsed. This is they got Elon to put $10 million into Morris's campaign. J.D. Vance went out and fought for Morris, and it's a humiliation to all of them by forcing Morris out, by Morris looking weak and pitiful by taking it. I mean, Ken Paxton said no. Paul Dan said no. Fleming said no. Fleming is probably the next senator from Louisiana because of it. Paxton is probably the next senator from Texas because of it. Paul Danz is going to do everything possible to make sure Graham loses because of it. Whereas, you see someone weak in Nate Morris, and Barr is Mitch McConnell, Mitch's bitch, and he's as much as Mitch's bitch as Scott Jennings at CNN. That this is how much that he is a Mitch McConnell guy, and how embarrassing. And people forget the reason why Mitch McConnell's even in the Senate is because Donald Trump endorsed him in 2020.
Again.
So, yeah, everybody said he wouldn't. And what did Mitch McConnell do? Help orchestrate 2 different impeachments against the president. That's who he is. Told him he couldn't pardon a bunch of people at the end of his term or he would get removed from the White House. So this is who Trump is endorsing. He's basically endorsing, if you go rhino, 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 that's who Trump endorses. If you want to know who the rhino candidate is, look at who Trump endorsed. If you want to know who the establishment candidate is, look at who Trump endorsed. If you want to know who the corrupt candidate is, look at who Trump endorsed, because that's the lineup. And there's no more egregious example than Andy Barr.
And just so people don't think we took one little thing out of context, here's another doozy.
Obviously, we think that the Mueller probe is important. Why is the Mueller probe important? It's important because we need to know the extent and the full extent of Russian interference in the U.S. election. There's no doubt that Russia interfered in the U.S. election, just like they've done in every election,
every single one,
the Cold War through the current time. And as the chairman of the Monetary Policy and Trade Subcommittee, I have jurisdiction over sanctions. I not only supported the sanctions against Russia for interference in our election last summer with the legislation that was passed, I support enhanced sanctions against Russia,
Robert,
not just for interfering in U.S. elections, but for interfering in elections in NATO allies like Montenegro, which I visited, and we
make Montenegro great again, bitch.
It's just a complete
humiliating, bro.
Oh, it's a complete joke. What's happened? But now we'll take the first person, the foremost person Trump has endorsed in these races, and that's Lindsey Graham's race in South Carolina.
Yes.
So that's coming up in June, the Dans didn't see a path forward, so he decided to drop out and fully endorse Lynch back Lynch full throttle. The markets believe that it's going to be easy for peasy for Lindsey Graham to win with an over 80% odds. What I can guarantee that I would recommend is no for Lindsey Graham to be the next senator from South Carolina. Because even if he wins this primary, he has a problem as bad or worse than Cornyn. 30% of Republican vote. Yeah, I'll let you get into that. A large portion of Republican voters in South Carolina say they will never vote for Lindsey Graham if he is the nominee. And he's already hated by Democrats, hated by independents. His numbers are falling through the floor. He's begging on Fox News for more money, even though the Israel First donors have given him close to 20, and the defense contractors, close to $20 million already. Trump has used Mar-a-Lago to raise money for this guy. that is the biggest war whore on the planet, who was a leader of Amnesty in 2014, who helped sabotage the repeal and replacement of Obamacare. That's who Lady Lindsay is, the queen of the war whores, always inviting us all into their brothel of blood for ceaseless, endless war, who has lobbied the president and has been more responsible for the president of any political official not named Bibi Netanyahu. Lindsey Graham is the number one person why Trump has gone into to Iran, why he has done such damage to the economy, why he has done such damage to his political base. Nobody more culpable, more responsible, more accountable than Lady Lindsay. So this is another key race that we'll see. Does all the Trump money, does all the Trump endorsements, does all of the institutional backing, is that enough to carry you through a primary challenge? Or will Mark Lynch pull the upset in the process? Is the only way they're going to save that seat. Because if Lindsey Graham gets nominated, he will lose and the Democrats will have the seat from South Carolina.
Here is that question, because I'm not allowed to show the Texas one, but I can show the South Carolina one now. If Lindsey Graham is the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate, would you vote for him as the party's nominee? Consider voting for the Democratic nominee, a third-party nominee, which they will have a choice to do, or not vote at all. This is something we do. If you've been following us a while, you know, guys, Robert knows, this is like a huge, huge part of, I don't want to get a huge part of how you decide what is a Trump or bust voter, what is who can drive more turnout. All right. Lindsey Graham has about 28% of Republicans who say they will not vote for Lindsey Graham. I mean, you can't win a race like that in a cycle. Like if this was 2020, it'd be different. If this was 24, it'd be different. Even if this was 22, it would be different. But it's not. It's 2026. A huge chunk of the Trump coalition is thoroughly pissed off. It's almost 30%. So this makes sense. And what's surprising is that this is still a state where Graham gets exclusive donor money. Mark Lynch has been able to make a run for it because he's self-funding. And that's why honorable thing by Paul Dance to step aside. By the way, he didn't even take the opportunity to run for Mace's district, which is his district. And actually, I thought that wasn't a bad idea. And then, you do a little bit of time in the House and you'll end up being the front runner later. If Graham, by the way, was to beat Lynch, then 6 years later, you'll have Graham's head on a stake. You know what I mean? So they weren't, it's interesting because Lynch and Dans both were not willing to take what are effectively bribes, whether it's offices or whatever. These are bribes, guys. Make no mistake about it. When they call you in there, they're trying to bribe you to take something else so you get lost. Why would Donald Trump want to leave his voters who saved him from prison with a piece of shit like Lindsey Graham for another 6 years, especially when Donald Trump and all Republicans in the Senate and the House have all been briefed on the positions that Lindsey Graham holds and how they will fare when the boomers start to die and leave the electorate. So to keep this guy as the face of the Republican Party, the face of Donald Trump's foreign policy, there is, Robert, you weren't overselling it. Perhaps nobody is more responsible for destroying Donald Trump's presidency than Lindsey Graham. Ted Cruz did it too. He was in on that whole extortion deal over the BBB with the airstrikes against Iran last year. But it was Lindsey Graham who was driving this shit and playing both sides of the fence and pretending like, oh, I got your back, Mr. President. I'll get your bill through. I went and I spoke to them and I just can't get them over the line, Mr. President, without some kind of action on Iran. I mean, we'll get that bill done for you, but tell me we're going to do something here. I mean, you drew a red line. You got to do something. You got to show my guy something. And he speaks for a voice of those people. And ironically, the scumbags that we have referred to now multiple times call him the Democrat whisperer. Not only does this guy not deliver Democratic votes for Donald Trump in D.C. He hasn't ever delivered a single Democratic vote in the U.S. Senate for Donald Trump. But he doesn't deliver any Democratic votes in the electorate in the state of South Carolina. I mean, it's unbelievable. By the way, just so people know, the odds for Lindsey Graham are grossly overstated right now. Yes, he is the incumbent, but he's under 50% again. He's finally taken some beatings. This war has been very hard on him and his image and his poll numbers. Believe me, if it was true what they're trying to say, Tony Fabrizio would have already handed him a poll to put out for the public for everybody to see. You're not seeing his poll numbers because he is at 42%. That is where he is. And and Mark Lynch can keep him below that, then he goes to a runoff and there's a real shot to beat Lindsey Graham. So while I recognize that he is the incumbent, he's got all the money, 81%, well, actually it just ticked down to 81 as we were talking, Robert, but 81% is way too much. Way too much. Looks like Robert's got to do something. He probably put it in the chat and I didn't look, but I'm horrible at that. I'm absolutely horrible at it. But I'll be back in a second, no doubt. Wow, we're coming up. We're almost to the 10 o'clock hour. Let me run, while Robert's doing this, let me run through some of these. We did, though. We ran through a lot. Let me run through some of the video clips. All right, so while we talk about why this language, man, that it's like this part delusion and this language he uses, this kind of language. I saw somebody comment before, and I'll get to the super chats in a bit, guys. And thank you, by the way, for your super chats and locals and your tips and your Rumble rants and all that. But when Robert brought up the housing market language, right? Here's another one, because the president was told that his tax cuts that, are making just like they're so popular across, big and small businesses alike. And the, whatever, working Americans. The problem is you pay your gas, you pay your, you fill up your gas tank almost every day. You file your taxes once a year. By the time November rolls around, how much you got or didn't get back or how much you saved is going to be way out of your mind. Here's the kind of language that's really hurting Trump and Republicans. This is language you would never hear from Donald Trump in his first administration. And I meant to play this before, but while Robert's doing what he's doing, this is a good time to circle back. Here's 1 out of 2 clips that I want to show you from Trump saying things that are just unbelievable.
You considering tariff relief for small businesses?
Why do you always mention that, you pick up a couple of little businesses? What about the car business? They're going to make a fortune because of the tariffs. Do you know that the union, the head of the union, who was no fan of mine, Sean Fain, I guess his name is, right? He didn't endorse me. The Teamsters did. A lot of people did. A lot of unions did. But he didn't. He couldn't stand me. Now he's saying, wow, what's Trump's done for the automobile? I can't believe it. I assume he's going to probably now say the next thing he can say is, I endorse this guy. He's the greatest I've ever seen. He can't believe it's happened. He said, we've been waiting 40 years for somebody to do what Trump is doing. So why don't you mention the big car industry instead of mentioning somebody that's doing strollers?
Well, I'm just asking about small businesses. Are there any discussions about giving any relief to small businesses?
Robert.
They're not going to need it.
Okay.
They're going to make so much money.
I don't even know what to say to that. We got no talent. We need H-1B visas because Americans have no talent. If you don't like how I'm handling the Epstein files and you're concerned about them, I don't want your support anymore. You know what? I'm sick of hearing all these people bitch about Israel. They're a great ally. Make Iran great again. Like, this is, and by the way, I don't want to hear about small businesses. They're going to make, they don't need it. Howard Lutnick needs breaks. Howard Lutnick's friends need breaks. But small businesses don't need breaks. Farmers are getting killed by these tariffs, but they support him, so they were willing to hold on for a while. Like this, there's this condescending, almost resentment towards voters that I'm picking Donald Trump's language, man, that you just never would have heard. And this isn't the first time. Come on. I just laid out like 4 examples. This is what I would have heard from Donald Trump in his first term. It's like, yeah, you're damn right. They better have saved me from going to prison. Damn right they reelected me. No, I don't know them shit. They should be happy. What he's saying right there is, fuck small businesses. They should be happy I gave them what they did. That's what he's saying to them. This is crazy. And what did he say the other day on Friday night? I couldn't believe it. I'm sick of hearing about affordability. I'm sick of hearing about how much healthcare costs. It's a hoax. This is all bullshit. It doesn't exist. Yeah. Okay. Your personal financial situation, you're struggling. I don't want to hear about it. It's a hoax. It doesn't exist. Oh, by the way, my son was just named a billionaire. And my son-in-law was just named a billionaire. My sons are taking all sorts of ridiculous stakes in the crypto companies that went up 99% and have, or went up, shot to the moon and are now down in value 99% because they all cashed out of their IPOs. Like this, guys, this is not good. All right. Like, I love the guy personally. Everybody knows that. But this is not good. And he knows it, right? This is like the thing. Cut the shit, because he's one of the smartest guys out there when it comes to narrative and branding and messaging. He knows he just doesn't care. That's my point. Like, Tucker's right, man. It's like he just doesn't care. He accepted that some things he probably is not in control of. He's handicapped like a textbook typical president has been over the years before him. And he just wants an easier path this time. So he's rationalizing in his mind that things are better and that people love it. And that, he's convincing himself of something he knows is not true. And here's one last clip, Robert, of him doing it right in front of us.
Only bad press. It's fake press. They give me fake polls. They tell me about polls and this. It's interesting. I did a poll on the war with Iran, and they said only 32% of the people like it. Well, I don't like it, and I don't like war at all, but we're equipped better than it. We have the greatest military in the world. You saw what happened with Venezuela. You see what happens with everything. But they said,
you hear it?
32% of the people are against President Trump.
Let me just stop and explain again, once again, for the fifth time that I've personally heard, Donald Trump has equated the Iran war and what he expected out of, the performance of the military to what he saw in Venezuela. And I'm telling you, this is important because, Robert, going into this, he was showed, we were all doing it. Jack was doing it. I was doing it. The vice president was doing it. Scrambling, showing Tony Fabrizio, handing him a poll that looked almost like mine. Exactly. Almost identical. He just looked at it, understood it, and was like, I just don't believe it's going to end up like that. I think it's just going to get more popular. And we're, people, Mr. President, actually, no, military, action tends to get more popular over time goes on. Right. But Venezuela was like, look, Venezuela wasn't the Middle East. You didn't campaign on starting no new wars in Latin America. You campaigned on starting no new wars in the Middle East, and Iran dwarfs the state of Iraq, dwarfs it. Like he just convinced himself, bro. So I'm just pointing that out because he has said this now 5 times that I know of, where he's giving you guys insight into how he deluded himself into thinking that this, because I heard it, like I don't want to blow anybody up, but everybody saw it, like what he did.
Well, when you explain it, like, is it okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon? It wouldn't be 32%.
Now say, do you want to prioritize preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon over domestic issues? How much gas? Would you support going after the regime in Iran if it meant your gas prices will go up? If it meant you can't address healthcare concerns and costs of affordability in the housing market? No, they will never prioritize the domestic. Now, when you have John McLaughlin write questions that go like this, that he gives to the president, are you ready? Since Iran said they will no longer negotiate and will build a nuclear weapon, do you support military action against Iran? Or, some of these poll questions, I don't want to just humiliate people. Like, we should look them up and go through them. Like, guys, they're pollsters. They know full well what they were doing. That's not true. You might as well have said the Iranian regime wants a nuclear weapon because they have ICBMs and they're going to launch them in Chicago and New York and Los Angeles and Tel Aviv and Spain and France and Great Britain. They're going to nuke everybody. Do you support or oppose attacking Iran to stop them from nuking the world? Like, it's just, you might as well have said that because that's the game you played. And I love Mark Penn, bro, but did you see the Harvard-Harris poll? Do you support Israel or Hamas in the Palestinian conflict? You cited a terror organization, bro. What are you talking about? It's Palestinians. And it's not support or oppose. It's a sympathy question. It's which one do you sympathize with more? And then, by the way, neither or both is an option. Like, they're playing these games. So, like, I understand what he's saying, but, like, what do you make of this? Like, come on, bro. You know it's not popular. Stop playing and fronting with everybody. You know it's not. You know what you did. You know you betrayed your voters, all right? There's why don't you just sister soldier, bro? Like, the Roy Cohn attack playbook is not going to work here, Robert.
Oh, yeah. No, and I think that instead, it appears the approach fundamentally, functionally, is to pretend otherwise and to spend tons of money and get Trump's endorsement and think that's going to carry through the primaries, and then the money will carry through the midterms. And that appears to be the bifurcated approach.
Yeah.
While Trump is in his own state of mind, where he thinks something's popular that isn't, where he thinks something's going to succeed that is unlikely to, in terms of domestic policy. It's unlikely the economic numbers reverse in a dramatic fashion sufficiently for the midterm to change. Definitely, though, in the primaries. So Louisiana, like Fleming, to I like his odds, given that he's considered a big underdog. I would make him a 50% chance of winning. Like Paxton in Texas, I think he should have, and don't like Cornyn. I think Cornyn only has a 10% chance of becoming the next senator from Texas. When you combined the Republican
strategy. Yeah.
With the Republican primary and the general election. So no on Cassidy in Louisiana, no on Cornyn in Texas, no on Graham in Louisiana. For the general election, which he is a heavy favorite for. I think he should be less than a 50-50 favorite to be the next senator from the state of South Carolina. I think there's a 50% chance Lynch knocks him off, but I think on top of that, there is a substantial chance that even if he were to prevail in the primary, that he will lose in the general election. I think he has a 30% chance of being the next senator from South Carolina, not the 70% chance or so the odds give him. So that takes us to the last primary race to cover tonight, which is Kentucky 4, the one and only, the number one target. The number one endorsement has been Lindsey Graham. The number one target has been Thomas Massie of this particular Trump administration, the Chris LaCivita, that consultant class, the Israel First crowd, the big money crowd, the establishment crowd. Their number one obsession is beating Thomas Massie. They've spent more money against Massie than almost in any House race ever, but definitely in a House race like Kentucky, in terms of you look at vote, how much money's been spent. And you got Special Ed Gay Rain, who keeps avoiding and evading debates, who people cheer. It's amazing. The people that attack Massie and cheer this guy, and they're like, oh, well, Massie's a rhino. Gay Rain is the ultimate rhino. They don't know. I mean, they just basically, they're like bots these days. They're the dear leader folks.
Another Trump hater parading around as MAGA. It's ridiculous. I mean, this guy hated Donald Trump. Guys, he literally left the Republican Party when Donald Trump was nominated by the voters in 2016 and did not come back to the party until Joe Biden defeated Donald Trump. I kid you not. You could see it's a public record. Okay. Nobody gets almost $10 million from AIPAC in a friggin' congressional seat in a medium market like Kentucky 4. This is a blatant attempt by foreign agents to try to buy a seat. This shit kind of scares me, Robert. Like, this guy is a COVID lockdown dude. This guy was a never Trumper. And because Miriam Adelson wants Massie gone because, the Israelis are deeply humiliated by the Epstein situation, Massie is a huge thorn in their side. And of course, Massie pissed the president off, You just can't have foreign dual citizenship people come in and buy a seat, guys. Now, it comes down for me, Robert. By the way, the Public Polling Project, the link is in the description below. Kentucky 4 for the final poll is up. We need your help funding it, so please go there, share it far and wide, contribute what you can. We very much want to poll this finally. I think it was Qantas had Massie up by 7. We had Massie up by 4. I saw 3 other private polls. One is the Gallrin side. They had Gallrin up by it's ridiculous. They had the electorate 65% boomer. That's never happened in Kentucky 4. I don't know what you're talking about. That's never happened. They're 30% of registrations. So even if they were to vote at an extremely high rate, maybe 40, 45, the idea that there would be 65% of the electorate is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, bro. Gulrin has to win the 45 to 64 group to beat Massie. Massie is beating him among that group right now, and that's why Massie was leading. He's also stomping him by 50 points with everybody else. All right, so like this is a Pyrrhic again, another Pyrrhic victory, bro. Like even if Gulrin was to win, it doesn't make any sense because you're basically sacrificing a huge chunk of your coalition who won't vote for you again. But the problem with Massie is that he's nationally recognized as representing that part of the coalition. So you're not just chasing away voters in Kentucky 4. And by the way, Charlie Kirk knew this, by the way. Charlie Kirk did not want this because Charlie was like, this is fucking stupid. The kids love this guy. The kids, this libertarian leaning when they're younger, you need this wing of the party. You need it because they can quickly turn into crazy, like younger voters. You don't give what they want. They'll turn to somebody else who promises, on the left. They can do it. They can justify and rationalize it. It's just dumb, bro. Why? So because he got under Donald Trump's skin? I mean, what's the point here? Is this a movement or a fucking playground? It's not serious anymore, dude.
Charlie's last endorsement was Nate Morris. He's been taken out of the equation, unfortunately, by President Trump.
He's been
the number one person he wanted to have defeated, the number one person that Trump himself is backing, but the person Charlie Kirk said had to be beat was Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. And one of his favorite congressmen, as he repeatedly stated, was Thomas Massie from Kentucky. So this will be the biggest sign. Can money buy a race? Can a foreign lobby buy a House representative? And then how much does Trump's weight have? So when you surveyed it before, Trump's very favorable and strong approval rating was under 50% in this district, and it's only gone down nationwide since then. Yeah. And there was a close proxy between that and getting the in the gay reign special ed vote. And special ed has only further damaged himself by not doing any grassroots at all, not doing meet and greets with voters, refusing to show up at any debate of any kind. It doesn't matter if it's like an elementary school. Yep. He won't show up for the debate. He won't show up at debates for TV programs. He won't show up at debates for schools and universities. He won't show up at debates for local Republican chapters. He won't show up for any debate anywhere. The guy's as invisible as Joe Biden in 2020. And they're running a basement campaign, and their premise is we can buy. That they can buy the race. He's running from the basement like Joe Biden. He's involved in woke programs, involved in COVID programs, involved in long time never Trumper, gave lots of money to Lindsey Graham. He's got a sketchy military history. Everything about the guy is sketchy. Thomas Massie is the guy who got the Epstein Files Transparency Act passed, the guy who got the amendment through that made sure there wasn't special immunity for big chemical companies. His Prime Act to give you direct access to food, to be able to buy the food directly from the farmer, is now part of the Farm Bill, about to get through and get passed into law. So he's the guy who took the lead on not you having your car be used as a spy against you. They ultimately passed it, but not without him trying to do everything possible to prevent it. He's the main person that's prevented FISA law from being reinstituted without any limits in the past month. And then, of course, the Epstein Files Transparency Act on top of all of that. So I think this race, with a lot of people, this is the number one primary being watched in the entire country. And it's even being watched around the world. Does the Israel lobby still control the Washington, the House of Representatives and the Senate? Can they buy themselves a House seat? Can they take out a longstanding, well-liked local member of the House from Kentucky? Can they take out the guy who led the lead on the Epstein files and led the lead on opposing foreign wars and led the lead on a lot of things that they're deeply involved in, whether it's Federal Reserve, central banking, surveillance state, the control grid of COVID, exposing Fauci, exposing January 6th, exposing the inside job on January 6th, exposing all of those things. Massie. There's no congressman that has been more of a thorn in the side of the deep state than Massie. So there's a bunch of people in Washington who will have confidence to vote their conscience and vote their constituents if they see Massie win, whereas they will be terrified and will run for cover if they see Massie lose. So this race is going to be the most significant. In addition, it will provide some education to the president as to he's been aligned with the wrong people for political consulting advice and spending money.
That's right.
But also the best motivation for him to reconsider his current Iran war double down strategy will be if he sees Massie win. So this is huge. The consequences from this race is as big as any primary ever. My own view is I think as Trump's numbers to continue to decline amongst Republicans in terms of intensity of support, that Massie will continue to rise, and that Massie is employing unique techniques to directly reach voters. And so I think Massie ultimately will pull it out. I think it will be close. I think it will be in the single digits. But I think Massie, if people continue to support him, volunteer, mass crowdfunding, crowdsourcing of support, mass volunteer organization, as your polling showed, people that the odds that someone had heard directly from a Massie supporter. Massie has deep, wide grassroots support in the local community. Gay Rain has none. Special Ed's got zilch.
It was nothing, guys. Like nothing measurable, significant, and Massie had all of, have you been door knocked? Have you been called, like live called by somebody who's from supporting Massie? Gallrin had nothing but, I have seen attack ads from Ed Gallrin against Thomas Massie. Like that's all he had. And it's an effort to try to depress. And this is what's, again, important. It's so important. It's worth repeating. The attack ads are not meant to do anything but suppress everyone who's under the age of 65 from voting, and to get it to be a textbook, old white boomer con electorate for a primary. That's the strategy of the Republican establishment against grassroots insurgents for decades. And it always backfires, because then you get to the general election and you have hurt yourself with the voters that you now need to get out. And you can see it right there, guys. I mean, in all the demographics that we have up. Everything we said about this, he's representative of certain parts of the coalition, and he's a national figure for it. He's not just a representative from the 4th district in Kentucky. That is obviously something that needs to be considered, because you're going to hurt your coalition badly if you defeat him. But there's more to this. Here you have Ed Gallrin. All right. Forget about the dumb. I'm sorry. I've lost patience. Forget about the dumb boomercons, the Sean Hannity boomercons and the Mark Levin boomercons. Think about how this politics about it. It's a game of addition. That's not nearly enough to win an election. Donald Trump's strong approval, again, is 20% right now. That's it. All right. That's all. That's it. They are a tiny minority, this group that we're talking about, when it comes to the overall electorate. If the rest of the country believes that Donald Trump is hiding the Epstein files to protect people because of, obviously his big donors and the Epstein class, which definitely has a certain component related to Netanyahu and Israel. And then, because to do it for them. And then also Donald Trump is Bibi's bitch, and he got dog walked into a war that he promised the country for 10 years was stupid and he'd never start. That is the narrative right now. Now imagine adding to that Donald Trump and his Jewish donors, his AIPAC donors, now took out the guy who was a co-sponsor for a petition that ultimately became the bill, the Epstein Transparency Act, onto the floor, which is the most popular bill passed, period, under the second Trump administration. Try to understand what I'm saying. Like, you're just adding to that narrative. Now you got Miriam Adelson. Now you got Paul Singer to give you all of this money, and AIPAC to give you all this money to take out Thomas Massie. What is it going to look like? It's going to look like revenge of AIPAC, revenge of Israel. And Trump is yet again controlled by Israel. No one's going to give a shit that Donald Trump has felt slighted by Thomas Massie. No one's going to care about all that inside BS. All they're going to see is that, yep, there goes Trump bot doing whatever his master Netanyahu wants him to do. There he goes again. Defeated a guy who was in Congress and got us the transparency, the Epstein Transparency Act, got us the documents. Again, it's dumb. I don't understand, like, how you can put all of this other crap before 77 million people, Robert. Almost 75 million people. Let's round. It was really more than that. I was right the first time. But like, I don't understand how you can put that before all of these people and still look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah, and I think, for people in Washington, Graham going down would be an upset, big upset. Fleming winning would be a big upset. Paxton, to a certain degree, in Washington will be considered he'll be considered an upset. And I guarantee you, in D.C., even the prediction markets are on top of how popular Massie is with younger voters, with the old school voters that has real grassroots, that the social media campaigns very effective. That isn't reliant on just these sort of BoomerCon, Fox News, TV, local TV news, advertising, watching kind of voters. Your classic kind of low information voter. The more high information voter likes Massie. The local base likes him. You see a gap in the prediction markets and in DC. In DC, they think Massie's going down and going down big.
They do.
They think Graham is winning and winning easily. They think Cornyn is still going to beat Paxton. They think it'll be close, but they think Cornyn will still be reelected ultimately from Texas. They think that Fleming was nobody to worry about in Louisiana. So these are all potential upsets from a Washington, D.C. perspective. In some cases, Graham going down, Fleming winning, those would be upsets. Cornyn or Graham winning the nomination, but then losing the general election. Those would be upsets from a prediction market perspective. Yeah. But I think that you aggregate these. I think there's an 85% chance Massie wins because the numbers are. His campaign is running a sharp campaign. He's got real grassroots connections. His opponent is not. His opponent is purely an unlikable. But it will be a test. There's a 1 in 6 chance that all that matters is money and media, and what doesn't matter, and that personal campaigning doesn't matter, grassroots doesn't matter. Better running a better campaign. There's a 1 in 6 chance. I assess that is the case, but I think Massie winning will be the biggest shock to the Washington D.C. establishment, and especially to the White House. I mean, you've had these conversations. They think it is a done deal that Massie doesn't stand a chance. That it'll be an easy over, the election will be over 2 weeks from Tuesday, that it'll be done and finished. And I think they're wrong. I think we're in for a lot of surprises over in the primaries and general election come the fall. But I think the biggest one of them all, at least for the DC establishment, for the entire consulting class, for the whole way they think campaigns operate. Yeah. They think money directs everything. Money controls everything. All you got to do is get the support of the donor class, and it doesn't matter if you betray your voters. It doesn't matter if you ignore your voters. It doesn't matter what you tell your voters. All that matters is have a lot more money than the other guy. And if you have that and you have the media backing, you'll be able to roll in. And it will be a bigger shock than Donald Trump was in the 2016 primaries if Thomas Massie upends that entire model. Not only beats the Israel lobby, not only beats the deep state, not only beats the incumbent president of the United States that's part of his own party, but that he beats the money media consulting machine that shows that it's all a big fraud. Nothing will prove that Chris La Civita, is a fake and a phony and a fraud, and that their model, the DC consulting model, is a fraud than if Thomas Massie wins, and the bigger the margin, the better to send all of those messages.
Andy Barr, almost 500,000 from AIPAC. I mean, but you're right. The biggest race, I think it's actually not even close, is the primary, at least, is Massie. And look, I mean, it comes down to, they believe that, and I have had these conversations, they think he's cooked. Look, guys, even when, this is why I'm very skeptical about the Gallrin's internal polling, which is the same pollster who polled for Randy Fine, all right, which was garbage, all right. He's not the end-all be-all. They had him leading when everybody had a huge lead for Massie. It was just total bullshit, So their whole playbook is to tell Miriam Adelson that someone's ahead, get her to give her your money, and then to use overwhelming money advantages to make your fake poll a reality. That's their model. And in a Republican primary, the reason why they think that is because it tends to be the case. I mean, you can get these boomers to come out, but this is an interesting race, and I think it is the most watched and important one, because that's not Kentucky 4. That, I mean, this is what people, when I'm looking at some of how they weighted some of these polls, including one from, you know, you and I both know him, you know, I don't want to say it out loud because I told him I wouldn't, but you know, I'm like, bro, boomers are not going to be 55% of the vote. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, like, go run it through Chat GPT, bro. And if you don't have voter file access, because you can look up, guys, you can actually look up. It doesn't matter if the district lines have changed. You do shape files. You can look up how much each age group has represented the last 4, 6, 7, 8 primaries. You can look back way back in history. That has not been this district since a total irrelevant time period where it doesn't even matter. There's no growth. No one's moving in there to retire, guys. There's like, you have the burbs, you know, from the Cincinnati market, right? And you have the rural areas where I think probably Galrin will do better because the boomer rural areas anyway, but not necessarily, you know, it's just not, it's probably not enough. Like, all of the growth is in the area where Massie is actually the strongest. So really all he needs is for them to show up. Yep. Jason over at Qantas said it right. Even though he later was playing her, he's like, you know, I'm going to pull it again. Maybe I had it. I didn't have the like, you know, voter model 2 type, but that's what I saw. And I said when that poll came out, I wouldn't be surprised if Massie actually did win by more, because it's one scenario, which isn't hard to see. That's all Massie needs. And that's a scenario where this election has drawn so much national attention and they put so much money against Massie. Did they hurt him? Yeah, but they also did something else. It backfired, and you're actually going to drive people out to vote who, if you just would have shut up, you know, or at least not gone that heavy, they probably wouldn't have bothered to vote. You know, some of these younger cohorts, especially the 30 to 44 group, you know, like, or 44 below, let's just call it 44 below. They probably wouldn't. And the vast majority would have been 45 to 64 and 65 plus. So you could have tried to win boomers by 30 points and offset that you're not going to win the 45 to 64, you know, like that. And then, you know, whatever, obviously Massie's going to win with voters under 44, but they're not going to be that much. Robert, the problem is, like, 18 to 29 year olds have been like 11% in Republican primaries in this district before. Like, it's not a, you know, it's not a typical electorate that you would see. So Massie has like a few scenarios where he wins, and Galrin has, like, if there's 4, let's just do this simple. If there are 4 scenario guys, all right, maybe Galrin wins in 1, which is the scenario where he wins by an overwhelming margin with 65 plus, and they are a gross outshare of the electorate, you know, maybe like, you know, Boone surges, but it surges because Boone County surges, but it surges not because the younger cohort, which is the growing part of the population in Boone County, which is pro-Massie big time, not because they turn out, but because they don't turn out, and boomers just have a crazy share of the electorate. That's how he needs to win. And then he needs to keep it tight with 45 to 64. Massie wins in at least 3 of the 4 simulations. You know, I mean, I'm trying to put it more simply. It's actually more than that, but I'm trying to be fair, where we can easily model 4 electorates. 3 of them Massie's going to win in. Galrin's going to win in 1. The reason why it's, you know, they think in Washington that he's such a shoo-in is because that's the electorate they're used to seeing on average in all these other kind of primaries. But again, that's not Kentucky 4. That's not who they are. It's like literally not. You can go over and, you know, and see that this is a much younger. So yeah, I mean, you want to go through these super chats, Robert? We're kind of like way over. Oh, yeah. Did we miss anything? I think you're right.
I may let you cover them. It looks like I got to do a legal filing real quick.
I missed something happening over there, but we hit it, right? I mean, we got everything.
Oh,
right?
yeah. So you know, I think upsets are coming, and they're coming sooner than a lot of people expect. The big race to watch is Thomas Massie's race. Yes. You can probably know what's going to happen early that night, just with the turnout, as Richard is pointing out. Yeah. That it might be one of the few races where we see heightened younger Republican turnout compared to what is otherwise depressed electorate everywhere. But there'll be a lot of critical messages to get out of these. You know, how does Graham do? How does Cornyn do? How does Cassidy do? How does Leflow do? How does some of these other Trump-endorsed money-backed candidates do versus the grassroots back candidates? How do the incumbents do against the challengers? Who is turning out and who isn't in these Republican primaries? Are certain kinds of candidates running on certain kinds of platforms better able to get out those candidates than others? So we'll get, and what happens in these primaries in May and June will affect what the House does up until the fall, what the Senate does up through the fall, what the White House does up through the fall. So these are going to have a direct impact on the president's foreign policy and domestic policy, as well as which direction Congress goes. And if they get the right message, maybe they take the right tactics and mitigate the harm that could be coming the Republican brand. And if the Democrats are smart, maybe they jump on issues like no immunity for big chemical companies, and they realize that MAHA is a winning issue rather than a losing issue, like the Republican insiders have wrongly convinced President Trump. So it'll be interesting to watch. But yeah, I gotta hop off and handle some Leah, so I'll let you cover the super chat.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do a thunder, lightning round, whatever it's called. See you soon, brother. All right, yeah, I think Robert is dead on here, guys. That look, it's also a matter of how these primaries will impact the brand going into the election. You just can't keep putting the same bullshit out there and expect people to stick with it. Trump was the anomaly, which is why he outran them all. Putting Lindsey Graham back up on the thing. I think the Massie thing is the most important, because Massie, if he loses, that race has the potential to paint them all with that brush. Democrats will paint them all with that brush. And they'll say, look, there was one bipartisan bill. It was super popular. It got through, but because it offended Netanyahu and Miriam Adelson and the Epstein class, they threw tens of millions of dollars in a guy who's in Kentucky for media market. It's not an expensive market. It's crazy. That's an obscene amount of money. And think about this before I start getting into the questions. I said this the other day on the show. All of the political damage that Donald Trump and Republicans have suffered are political damage that is self-inflicted. All of it. Democrats haven't done shit. They haven't unloaded anything on people yet, guys. They have kept their powder dry. They have stayed disciplined. They've learned their lesson from the last, 8 years in the Trump era, where they would lose their minds, go nuts, overreact. They're not doing that this time. They understand that all they have to do is be a viable alternative. And the rest of the stuff, the Epstein class stuff, the no new wars, read my lips, no new wars, it writes itself. We don't have talented people. Or the other night, Friday night. I mean, guys, if you didn't see that clip, maybe I should play it, honestly, before we leave. If you didn't see that clip of Trump basically telling people to stop bitching and moaning about affordability because it's just a hoax. It's a line of bullshit, he says. It's like basically like the pollsters made it up. And somebody had said, actually, and put it on X, that a DC pollster texted him after Trump said that and was like, it's over. After his speech, he killed us. He called affordability a line of bullshit. I mean, it was it was the death knell for all these pollsters who are watching. And it's like one of the big things that everyone's seeing is that Donald Trump just doesn't seem to have the faith of the public that he still cares about them. And that's a major problem. I'll grab that clip and I'll play it in a second. But let's go through this real quick. Cynic got his ticket. I'll buy Baris a drink. Woo woo. Don't forget 1776 lawcenter.com, and their tickets are limited. There will be some others too. It looks like there's going to be some special guests. I just can't say anything, but there's already an incredible slate. It's going to be a great time. I always myself look forward to hearing Chase's session. And now it looks like the whole behavior panel is going to be there. I met Greg last year. Well, not met him. I mean, I knew Greg, but I don't think that we've ever met in person until that. But this is really, again, I am not coming with a broken toe or foot this time. There was a doctor who was in the crowd who helped me because, guys, if you leave a bone break, you can get a blood infection. It's no joke. And my whole foot was infected, because I left it too long. This doctor who was like a fan took like concierge care of me. Thank God. And she also went viral once before because some dude had a drug overdose at an event and she brought him back to life on camera while people were filming. This woman's amazing. But yeah, I mean, she took in, I don't know what would happen to me. I waited so long. It was bad. And she got a blast of antibiotics into me. By the very next day, I could stand again on my foot. I did the event, not barely being able to walk. It was incredible. And then I'm like, oh, man, food's great because the food is amazing. Robert and his crew always do such a good job at this. You'll love it, Cynic. We're going to have a good time. Thanks for grabbing the ticket. DW fraud article today. Benji and corporate hoes don't realize this is not a win for them. I know. Show investor economy is so horrible that the lower class are only getting wealth through scams. You know, I actually do worry about that as like we get this huge divide. What happened the last time in our country when we had a huge divide? And a stunning new amount of underclass workers, organized crime. You know, organized crime. People eventually start to figure out other ways to get ahead. Please tell me you're optimistic about JD Vance getting the U.S. out of this Iran conflict soon, or I'm going to self-delete because life ain't worth it. Oh, don't do that. Your profile picture is entirely too pretty, Jonathan. Don't do that. You know, I'm always optimistic about that. The vice president is a very smart guy. He's not stupid. The question is, does President Trump know when to say uncle? I mean, he doesn't like to do that. And the big issue that they have is that he, again, I use this word, it is what it is. Do you think I like saying this? I hate saying this. He's got a betrayal on his marker. In 2018, it wasn't even him. It was Republicans. And they didn't blame Donald Trump for it. They absolutely blamed Donald Trump for this betrayal. Even if the economy comes roaring back, it will not be enough. He needs to make, and there, maybe we should do a show about what it is at this point they would need to do in order to have a real shot. Because I got to tell you, I don't think this is going to cut it. Do I think that there are people out there right now doing an incredible job trying to get these states to move? Yes. Every seat counts. Every seat counts. But at this point, you know, I mean, you guys see the generic ballot. Maybe not everybody has. At this point, it looks like Republicans are going to get absolutely raffle stomped. The national mood is horrible for them. They've lost their lead on everything, including here, watch. Let me do this real quick. This is the overall. Let me put this up. I'm going to get in the way of demographics. So let me just make this full. There we go. Without leaners, 47 to 31. I mean, 47 to 37. It's actually 47.7 to 37.1. And then with leaners, 50.4 to 39.4. This is likely voters. So while, again, because some people have a difficult time understanding how to read, what you see on the crosstab without looking at the other column is registered voters. So Republicans look like they're getting roughly 35% or 33, 34, it depends by the month, of the Hispanic vote. But among likely voters, they're not. They're in the 20s. Democrats are just kicking the shit out of them like it's the era of Mitt Romney. So it's a problem because you can see it in this certainty to vote, which is 52.6 to 40.5 when leaned. These are huge margins. In fact, this lead that Democrats posted this month is the biggest lead Big Data Poll has ever found on the generic ballot ever. And that includes when Republicans were stretching their legs pretty good in 22. You remember that? Democrats never had to claw back from a R plus 12 or R plus 11, R plus 10. We never had that. We had some big leads, which we noted at the time were kind of big, but Democrats were able to bring it back down to like 4. It was really like 3.5, but rounded to 4. And that's roughly what happened. And because Democrats did better with redistricting, because Democrats did better with understanding the impact the impact on turnout from the realignment, because Democrats made better use of their ground game while Republicans were paying people to go to Caesar's Palace and gamble, it's not good. This is really also really bad. You know, the Republicans are trusted more to handle immigration and border security by just 2.8%. Foreign policy and national security is a traditional Republican issue. They now trust Democrats by 3.4%. That's because the war is unpopular and because Americans don't trust Republicans. They think they're bought by Israel. It's just true. I think a lot of people are bought by foreign nations, but they think Republicans have been complete, including their standard bearer, Donald Trump, has been completely captured by a foreign nation. That's what Americans think. Go see my tweet before, requoting Glenn Greenwald, who was absolutely right about the sequence of events with Tucker and what happened with Israel. I just added more about, because we've studied it, it really was a 3-tier process with shifting sentiment away from Israel, an existing trend that was already headed towards, it was a negative trend, and it was fueled by age signals. So it was going to happen anyway. Then there was this like kind of wake up, this realization, oh my God, Gaza is a genocide. And I don't think I support a genocide among everybody except for Republicans who are 65 plus. So, and even they shifted away, have been shifting away from Israel. They still support them more than they don't, but they don't by the numbers they used to. And while everyone else does not support Israel, doesn't even like them. I mean, that's the truth. They don't even like them, you know? And then the third thing was that now we have this deep-seated resentment among the center and the right who voted for Donald Trump. It spans from center voters to the right-wing coalition. There's this deep resentment toward Israel because these voters voted for Donald Trump to put America first, to put Americans first, to put their needs first. And they feel that Israel has hijacked their presidency, put themselves before Americans who they know have been extremely generous toward not only the nation of Israel, but its people. And they're fucking pissed. And you can't be upset with them or call them names like Mark Levin goes in his little fairy rants and Ben Shapiro pretending he's smart. You can say whatever you want and call people names and call, Theo Vaughn names, call Tucker Carlson names. They are espousing the majority viewpoint. And not to mention, the majority viewpoint is correct. Yeah, they're right. The voters are right. Just admit it. Did or did not Israel and its foreign agents in this country, did or did they not put the needs and the interests of the nation of Israel above the needs of the American people? Of course they did. Did or did they not hijack a presidency that the voters who elected this man believed to be their last chance to course correct a doomed empire? Of course they did. The voters are right. Can't even argue with them. Mr. Baris, wouldn't you agree that the North Carolina school teachers are the best drivers in public parking lots? I still haven't gotten my damn Jeep fixed. Gray, it's been, you know what? It did. We ended up absolutely going through the insurance company like you guys wanted to see us do. I did want to try to give them at least an opportunity not to have their insurance go up. But once my insurance company said this will not impact your insurance, actually, because the vehicle was parked, you weren't even in it. Yeah, for those who don't know, she was, my wife told me more in detail about how just like, just how upset she was. So I did kind of generally feel more bad for her as time went on. But look, I don't know how you hit a parked car. Like, I just don't know how you do it, especially not in a bougie SUV, even though it's big, it's extended. Yes, this thing has the top of the line cameras in them, surround cameras. Like, there's no way she should have hit this car, my car. And once you hit it, you don't keep riding down the quarter panel. Don't you hear the crunch? Don't you hear the beeps? Unbelievable. Why don't Republicans in blue states pull a page out of Democrat playbook and run an independent against a Democratic governor or senator? Because they're stupid and they don't listen to me. Honestly, I'm just going to start going to like other people. I have a plan. I do. I don't know if I can get him to go for it, but I have a plan. There's another part of this that needs to be going on too, Jonathan. Why don't Republicans who know that they're in areas where they cannot win, why are they letting John Ossoff pretend to be America First, a Democratic version of America First? Just run as a Democrat and run on America First. There are a slew. I don't want to give it up. I actually even figured out how they could do it. And then they can pervert the ranks of the Democratic Party the same way that Republicans perverted the ranks of Democrats perverted the ranks of the Republican Party. They can do the same to the Democratic Party. I don't want to give it too much, but for real. Yeah, this slot does work good. I hope so. I hope everybody, it does seem like there's a bigger live audience, and it was like kind of not announced. I tried to give as much time and as much forward warning as possible, but fact of the matter is it always takes people time to adjust to the new times. I want to keep doing this for all the shows because on days when we have elections, we're going to run into them. So I think it's probably important we do this. I'm getting close, though, to having to pick up my daughter. So what are the odds Trump is unseated from office? High, very high. Right now in Cauchy, the odds for the Senate have gone down somewhat. Let me see. Republicans are back, I think, favored to win the Senate, 54%. I think they're grossly overrated. They're going to lose Ohio at this point. Maine, Plattner is the only hope Susan Collins has is that Plattner is not really in communication with the Democratic Party. They're kind of like abandoning him. That's her best hope because their strategy is retarded. It's stupid. Their strategy is to take over $10 million and talk about Graham Plattner's tattoo, which will backfire and offend the working class Mainers who all have tattoos that are edgy tattoos, especially those who served in the military. It's these are very dumb people. Instead of Susan Collins just governing as someone who proclaims to be a Republican for once, and then being able to run on her record of making Americans' lives better. But instead, she was a pain in the ass to Donald Trump, as she always is, for the small amount of time that Donald Trump was focused on trying to make people's lives better. And now she's right on the bomb everybody train. So maybe if she wasn't a total fucking fraud, she'd be able to run on a record instead of running against someone's tattoo. It's humiliating. Honestly, it's humiliating. Oh, I wish I had Robert here for that. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not that familiar, but Robert is. I mean, I imagine Robert would be. I'm not that familiar on that at all. Yeah. I mean, they have no choice but to attack back because Trump said we're going to have, and then you had all these idiots, your textbook idiots, the COVID lockdown cheerleaders and the Iran war cheerleaders like Will Chamberlain going, it's game over. It's checkmate. Iran has no choice but to, okay. And then they just shot a whole bunch of shit up in the UAE and sunk a boat. So we have no choice. I mean, a fragile ceasefire is a nice way to put it, but Trump backed us into this corner. He did. He backed himself into this corner. And now he's putting merchant and military ships at risk. It's sad. But the sad thing is, here's the real sad thing. The last barrel of oil that actually was shipped before the strait was closed arrived at its destination on Friday. So all these people who think that we can suddenly wind down the war and open the strait again, and that we'll be able to do it quick enough where we can avoid price shock, you're smoking shit, and what you're saying is against everything every energy expert is saying and every market analyst is saying. You can't do that. It's not how supply lines work. Sorry. You already made the disruption. You haven't begun to feel the supply pinch yet. And you think prices went up now? Wait. I have been seeing the prices slowly rise at the pumps, and wow, did Trump F this up. He keeps digging and keeps hitting rock bottom. Yeah. President AOC inbound. That has always been my huge fear. That is, of course, by the way, the entire point of Burn It Down, which you can go get. The link is in the description. If you haven't gotten it, please go consider getting it. I think I'm not saying this just because it's my book. I think it is the most important conversation, especially the Republican Party. Both parties need to have, but especially the Republican Party needs to have. This generation will change dramatically. This electorate will change dramatically, and it will change very soon, sooner than people think. And unfortunately, for people who aren't paying attention, there will be two options: the Mamdani or MAGA option. And that real MAGA, not this fake bullshit Mark Levin MAGA, real MAGA. And if we don't get that, we're getting an AOC-like kind of figure. And it probably will be a dark horse. There's Burn It Down right there. Probably will be a dark horse. It's back to number one in new releases. I effing love you guys. I don't know who is pushing these sales, but every time I think that I'm about to get bumped down, and we come roaring back to number one. And it's like a book gets released. They have a shot up in sales. We get bumped out, and then our sales just keep resurging and maintaining. And it's, I just absolutely love you guys for it. I did not expect this. I didn't, but this book is critical. And then just read the description. You get an eye for it. Most people think they know what time it is in America. Return to constitutional conservative principles. You go to any like these GOP events, guys, you have all the, the older, because the older, especially women, are the core. They are the center of the get out the vote in the Republican Party, but they're running around with their pocket constitutions, and they just don't get it. It's wrong. The clock is about to run out, and the people still arguing over yesterday's headlines are going to be blindsided. There's a lot of exclusive data that we have that you guys haven't seen. We put in this book from decades of trend tracking and uncomfortable question asking, and it all points in the same direction. We have hit a civilizational shakeup. Young people believe that institutions are hollow and systems are rigged. The old order feeds itself first and calls its governance, while citizens get shafted. The youth have noticed, and they can't take it anymore. Imminent systemic collapse feels unprecedented only if you've never studied history. There's a pattern for eras like this, a template. Once you recognize it, you can't unsee what happens to us next. Just because we're America does not mean we are exempt from this. Meanwhile, naive commentators repeat the claim that Generational Z, the Zoomers, are more conservative than previous cohorts. All polling disagrees. Most Americans have no clue how radical, how reactionary, and revolutionary this next generation is. A wave of disaffected and disillusional are riding to prominence and power, and they don't want to reform the system. They want to burn it down. So what are we going to do about it? Because Democrats will recognize this, and they will accommodate it. They have been very, very good at it for the last 100 years almost. They know what they're doing. Definitely half a century. And they will grab it if we do not. And it's like the Republicans had the best chance just 2 years ago in 24. Less than 2 years ago. It was, if you would ask anybody, it would be like, damn, Democrats are screwed. Well, not now. Oh, you're going to go get her?
Yeah.
I was going to go get her, but I guess I'm running out of time.
5 minutes.
You're going to, they're upstairs, I guess. You have, yeah, they're on. I think they are. Yep. I will text it to you. Okay. Yeah, I think they are. I'll text it to you. Be very careful. Be very, very careful. I voted for 47 and 24, and at this point, I won't be mad if they jail him after kicking him out of office. He's basically handed the Dems 26 and 28, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with that. I hear this all the time from voters every day when we poll. Every day. This is one of, there's like everyday comments that we hear. This is an everyday comment. I don't even care. And we hear them from 3-time Trump voters. Because this time he did something that he's never done, and that Rush Limbaugh warned him to don't do. And he did it. He broke that bond. He did it. He put someone else before you. And that someone else is unpopular. That something else, the idea behind it, is not only unpopular, it's literally nauseating to most people. I saw his headline, Joe. I saw his headline. The Supreme Court saves the House for Republicans, or nets them 30 seats or something. I was like, oh, Tim. Oh, Tim. Tim is a good guy. He is. I like Tim. But I saw it, and someone wants to clip this and send it to him. All I can do is send him a DM, like, hey, bro, or a message, Okay, bro, maybe he's trying to just keep people optimistic. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, this is not what everyone thinks it is. Okay. Even if every state did it, they theoretically could still fall shy the number of seats that they would need to be in the safe zone, considering how bad the polling is for them. So can it save the House? I mean, it could be part of a broader strategy to save the House. They don't have to lose the House. They never had to lose the House. This idea now, well, all these incumbent parties win. Loser think. To quote the late, great Scott Adams, loser think. Defeatism. Try governing as you said you would govern. You had a honeymoon period this time. You had so much more love and so much more grace than you ever had the first time around. It was a different environment because your mandate and your coalition was stronger. It was deeper. It was broader. The breadth of it scared them. And you fucking threw it all away. For a scumbag who welcomed and congratulated Joe Biden after he allowed the Chinese to help steal the election for you. That's your boy, Mr. President. 26 and 28 are great opportunities to zero seats the GOP. Hoping a turtleago to mend his ways is futile and a waste of energy. See, people are fucking mad. Anyone who's watched this show knows Brian's a longtime viewer. He loves Donald Trump, or he did. He wanted him to succeed. People are pissed. 100% of MAGA, though, right, Brian? 100% of MAGA. Harry Enton said so. Notice nobody wants to quote Brian. Notice nobody wants to quote Harry Enton anymore. What happened to that? Nobody wants to quote Harry Enton to push back against me. What happened, bro? Clowns. Trump's war is causing me a ton of financial pain. I had to cancel all trips due to gas prices. Time to elect Dems to give them the pain I'm feeling. And there will be people like Cynic and Chief. 100%. That is going to happen. I see it already. Democrats are winning the crossover vote. Let's pull up. Let's get rid of Burn It Down for one hot second. Let's get rid of the most important book to be released this year in 1 second. And let's bring up the crosstabs. Let's do party. I wish, wait a minute. Do I have the Trump 2020 vote? Oh, I got to put the vote up. Let's do this for Wednesday's show. What's Trump's vote and Harris's vote? About 20% of Trump's coalition is gone. They don't approve. They're not even voting, or they're voting Democrat. It's bad. I was going over this with another pollster before. But even here, if we just do party and we just do generic ballot, let's go first without leaners. You can see that Republicans are losing the crossover vote 2-1. They're losing independents by 14, and they're losing the crossover vote 2-1, meaning there are twice as many Republicans voting for the Democrat than there are Democrats voting for the Republican. That is disgusting. When we look at leaners, you can see it's even more. 22% of self-identified Republicans who said they were undecided said they would vote for the Democratic candidate. That compares to just 3 freaking people on the Democratic side. 3, which represented 7% of those undecideds. I mean, putting it all together, what do you think it's going to look like? Right. More than 2-1 turnover advantage, Democrat favoring Democrats over Republicans, with Republicans losing the independent vote by 15 points. Oh, you didn't see any of that. I just went through all that for nothing. Son of a bitch. Real quick, let's go through it again because it is important. Generic ballot, 2-1 crossover that favors Democrats, and Democrats have a plus 14 lead among independents who have changed greatly. 22% of Republicans who said they were undecided in the first round of the generic ballot questioning said they would, when leaned, pick the Democrat. That compares to only 3 people we interviewed who were undecided, who said who were self-identified Democrats. And that represents 6.8%. So obviously, with leaners, Democrats are going to get a boost in their crossover advantage. It's 9 to 4.6. So basically, if we round, well, it's like still 2-1. Yeah, it's still 2-1. And then the independent advantage goes to almost 15 points. So again, contrary to popular opinion, people think I like saying this shit. I don't. It's just, it is what it is. Woo! We got a lot of, thank you guys. today. I'm going to go to Rumble here in a second. Ooh, shit. Someone should remind Trump where Roy Cohn is now. That's right. Redacted by Y2 censors. Oh, shit, man. But yeah, I mean, look, it didn't end well for that. I just don't understand. Like, and all situations are not the same. Politics is personal. It's personal. Bill Clinton knew it was time to sister soldier. I mean, people need to know when it's the jig's up, and that's what it seems like. Trump's not allowing himself to understand here, and I get why he doesn't. Fight, and just keep. I get that, because I'm similar like that. I don't cave like that either. I just keep fighting. But when you're wrong, it's different, guys. When you're wrong, it's different. You're wrong, and the voters are right, and you should. I'm not saying you come out and say, I'm so sorry. But you have to acknowledge that their grievances are legitimate. Otherwise, you're going to be screwed. They're going to make you pay. They're going to make you pay. If gas is $6 in August, upper limit on Dem win seats, I still think there's a limit to what they can do because of the maps. We'll see what happens when they're, whoever redraws. But I do think that Dems could win 35, 40 seats. I don't believe that they're capped at like 25, like other people say. Their overperformance historically compared to how, the special election overperformances alone. Historically, if you just look, they suggest that Democrats can, in fact, overperform by enough of a margin that they can win the seats beyond the 23 to 25 that people have identified as a constraint. By the way, that constraint 6 months ago was actually 15. All right, and it just keeps going up. I think the dam could break. I do. And I think you could see like 35, 40 seats, maybe even 45. I know it's crazy, but look at how bad Republicans have been performing. And I just don't see it getting any better. I really don't. And not at this point. Because, the problem is you're just not seeing Republicans admit that, especially the president, who's got to lead this, admit that they did, in fact, side seat their own voters, and didn't put their voters first. They didn't, guys. They just didn't. Again, it's like so hard to say, the voters were whiners, Will the farm and food bill get watered down or poison pilled in the Senate? I don't think so, but I'll keep you posted on that. I don't think so. Not that watered down, because they know the House is going to have such a hard time. Charlie would trust Trump? No, Charlie trusted Trump, would take his view into consideration. Since Charlie's been gone, Trump has done nothing but take dumps on his policy and candidate goals. Yeah, I'm going through Rumble rants real quick and giving the super chats a real quick break. Then I get to locals too a little bit. But yeah, that's true. Kimmy, thank you. Thank you, Kimmy. That was just a thanks to Rich and Robert. Really appreciate it. Oh, G Fonz gifted 1 subscription to the People's Pundit. Very awesome. Very awesome. Let's hit up locals. Woo! It looks like Dems are going to still run a candidate in Montana along with an independent. How does that change your prediction? Nothing yet, because I've seen them do this before and they run a candidate, but they just totally advance it for show. Nothing at this point. And then I've actually seen Democrats like Alaska, for example, in 2010, Joe Miller ran against the Democrats still as well, but the Lisa Murkowski campaign was like a wink, wink, and Democrats had a deal done. So you can't just trust that. And they were instructed to vote right in for Lisa Murkowski anyway. Otherwise, we wouldn't have that shitter in the Senate. Thank you, Karl Rove. That's the Mark Levin wing of the party, by the way. Thank you, guys. We'd have Joe Miller in the U.S. Senate from Alaska right now. Instead, we have Lisa fucking Murkowski. This shit does matter. So when I said immediately that Trump supporting Thune is a disaster and all the dumb seal clappers were like, no, you overreact. You overreact to everything. You're a stupid noob and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. As a matter of fact, All of these fucking people need to go fucking work at Walmart. Go apply for door greeter at Walmart. If you didn't realize that Epstein would hurt Trump, if you didn't realize that the attacks last year were really just the opening act for a real war, if you didn't realize that this would completely suck up all of the attention from the domestic agenda, if you didn't realize that the Iran war would destroy his coalition, if you constantly made excuses for all of the underperformances in the special elections, you should shut the fuck up and get another job. Get a real job, because you're trying to make a fake career out of what you're doing here on X, scamming people out of their wishful thinking, stealing their hope instead of being truthful to them when you know full well you're fucking way out of your league. Bitch, go apply for Walmart, motherfucker. You don't belong here. You're fucking stupid. And look at what you have done. You're detrimental to the survival of the country. Your stupidity is threatening all of our future. Does the redistricting in Florida, Alabama, and Louisiana impact the outcome in November? We did get to some of that. We will see. Alabama tried to, but then they got pushed into it. By the way, Caroline Wren is doing really good work. Florida, again, that Constitution with the comments DeSantis has made, you guys remember the judges in this country. Be careful. He made political statements. This is a problem. And Louisiana will redistrict. It's going to help, of course, but it's not enough. All right. And I would implore, and believe me, a lot is going on behind the scenes to try to push them now, because it won't matter after November. They're so weak to begin with. After they're defeated, after a defeat, Republicans crumble. They crumble. They won't do shit. And by the way, Democrats will have control in a lot of areas you don't think they will. So that shit ain't getting done anyway. All right, Ginger, 1776 Law Center Conference, be there or be square. Damn right. And by the way, I obviously would not compete with one, but Laura and I are going to have a little bit of an announcement for you guys pretty soon. All right. Thank you, by the way, USA Now. Thank you. That's hilarious. It's Prince Charles, the heir to Count Dracula. 100%. Alex Jones is right about that. At first I was like, why does he keep saying that? Then I realized, holy shit, this guy really does look like Vlad Tepes. Like Vlad Dracula, the Prince of Wallachia. The real historical character, he looks like it. He does look like it. That man looks like Vlad Tepes. And then you got BB up there with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh my God. You see what I mean, though? It's just like, it's the narrative now. So, yeah, let's spend all this money to take out Thomas Massie, who's the Maha guy, who's this, who's that. And, yeah, let's do that and make us look like we're even more fucking bitches and slaves to Israel. It's a great idea. Fucking stupid. That picture of Laura as Saw is fucking hilarious. Neocons stopping populism isn't exclusive in the South. This is son of a Mitch. It's happening right now in Utah, in District 3. They're terrible at this in Utah. Absolutely. With the current neocon status quo, Celeste Malloy versus the populist Phil Lyman. That's true. Vote for Phil Lyman. Okay. That's a good question. I assumed everybody knew what a Sister Soldier moment was. And that shows my age, because obviously it was popularized again in the 90s. Okay. Well, it was made. Okay. So it dates back to Sister Soldier having to apologize for people she was around and comments that were made and whatnot. So it's become a cultural reference, and Bill Clinton made it this, where a politician knows that it's just a moment where you have to man up and just say you were wrong and just take responsibility for something. And the reason why it's a big deal is because, as Bill Clinton and others have shown, when you're in a spot like Trump is in right now, there are very few Hail Marys that you can use to try to recruit your political capital or even your standing among the public. Trump is in that dire of a situation right now. He's a joke. Nobody who has the balls in the White House to tell him this, the country views him as a joke, except for 20% of the country. This is a problem. If you love him, if you support him, you would have the balls to tell him that and to try to give him better advice to steer him on the right path. You wouldn't sit and seal, you know, I don't want to make the noise go off. You wouldn't sit there and seal clap and pull the sycophant bullshit. That helps nobody and it doesn't help him at all. In fact, it hurts him. He needs to sister soldier it, which means you just accept this is your moment to take responsibility for fucking up. And Americans give you a lot of grace when you do that. They respect it. Ohio primary tomorrow. Hope Casey Push can beat Ramaswamy. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it looks like Vivek Ramaswamy is basically just trying, and I like Vivek. I did personally, and man, he's screwed up. That's the worst run campaign I've ever seen. Not I've ever seen, but it's up there. It's like, it's up there. It's really bad. It's terrible. He's going to blow it. And then he's going to drag, and he's going to help drag Usted down with him. TBUSA and other nonpartisan groups should have no issue not supporting or outright opposing any party that's pro-stupid war, mass immigration, amnesty, and other issues they don't stand for. If lots hard to it's not hard to realize that. Then if it is, I guess you're saying, then they're not worth the support either. I would look. I mean, the funny thing is, this poll came out today. It showed a bunch of, the turn young voters have had on Donald Trump. And there's all these people in certain circles blaming TPUSA. Like, they just can't deliver without Charlie. And I'm talking about within the, administration. And, of course, that hurt their feelings, considering they advised him to take my advice. That's what they advised. I'm like, that I'm right. Epstein is going to kill us, especially with young women, but it's going to kill us. And don't get into a war with Iran. They didn't, Charlie didn't even want the limited strikes. He wanted none of it. He wanted nothing to do with any of it. And on and on and on and on. I mean, we could go on, personnel stuff down the line. Barnes did a great job doing it too. Fucking Lindsey Graham. You have to be kidding me. Andy Barr. They endorsed Nate Morris. Meanwhile, they're helping him get rid of all the Indiana senators that he feels slighted by. It's unfair to blame TPUSA. If he would have listened to their advice, which was to listen to my advice, he wouldn't be in this position. They didn't do it. They're not to blame for the loss and thing, but I do understand what you're saying. And that's why I constantly advocate for a stronger position. And your access is not as important as the future of our fucking country. The only way Cornyn will win is cheating with the old Bush machine. Blondie, I'm concerned about this greatly myself. I'm not one of these guys. I strongly suspect that they cheated in the first round, at least somewhat. And I have no doubt they will try to cheat again, like George P. Bush himself tried to do against Ken Paxton. And nobody talks about it, but he did. Which voted more dead Texans for Herbert Walker for president, with Lee Atwater and W for governor, than LBJ voted for dead Texans, or then LBJ voted dead Texans for JFK for president. Crenshaw was another casualty. Question: will Ted Cruz be able to pull Chip Roy over the line for attorney general? I mean, Ted Cruz is he's not strong enough. No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Chip has got his own thing going on, but Ted Cruz is hardly any impact whatsoever. I mean, that guy has got no capital anymore. He's another joke. That's why he wants to run for president, and he's already looking for his new job. Or maybe Supreme Court justice for me, Mr. President, because he has no fucking chance to win again. If you run a viable alternative against Ted Cruz, he's fucking done. I'm tired of people pretending Trump's agenda is the same as Cornyn, Graham, Barr, McConnell, Thune, etc. Trump's action and endorsement are consistent. He's clearly went Pfizer and Bayer over Maham. I agree. He went Israel over the USA. He went his wallet over the voter. That is who he is. That is the evidence is in. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with you. I think it's pretty clear to me, Do the PACs understand how disgusting their spending is when people are giving up vacations and eating out? No, they're fucking so stupid. And $10 million to talk about tattoos? How do we fix needing millions to run for office? I'm working on this. I really am. I need a couple people to understand that they literally have to fund this idea. And I just want to dissolve the Republican Party. I always used to argue that it has to be reformed. That's the only way. It's done. It's broken. The Republican Party is broken. There's a better way to go about this. I don't want to spit this out yet because you're going to have all these fucking scumbags take my idea and run with it. And I'm tired of that happening. So I got to keep this like tight to the vest. But I'm telling you, Republican Party's got to go. And there's a way to do it without beating it in primaries or immediately altering. Like, okay. So just starting a new party, like the America Party. Call me, bro. It would be easier to go about it another way and to purge the ranks of the Republican Party than it would be to beat the Republican Party with the American Party, just outright in an election. And then there's a second step, a second part. It's really a two-pronged strategy. And we could dismantle the Republican Party in one election cycle. If Elon Musk calls me, if Elon Musk gets in touch with me, since they just wasted all of his money in Kentucky, and he's still interested in really having an effective political party, I will tell him what to spend his money on and do it right. I'm basically the only one in the country who can tell him. Like, that's it. There's nobody else. If Elon Musk really is serious about doing good and saving the country and having an alternative that isn't bought by Israel or captured by special interests that won't allow even basic legislation that you thought you were getting done, bro. If you're serious about it, I will tell you how to do it. All right? That's a promise. I am starting to think Trump is killing the Republican Party on purpose. Just look at how, and this Patrick, look how they did nothing during all the lawfare, or he is just BB's favorite fleshlight. Ooh. Again, I can't argue with you. I wonder sometimes too, does he just not give at all a fuck? Is that just where he's at now? Is he like you remember you guys watched the Hulk Hogan Netflix documentary? I actually thought it was very good. And he goes on about the time when he went to WCW, and he went there as a good guy at first, but he wound up turning heel. And it was like one of the most disappointing things for Hulkamania fans but then he drew huge crowds, and WCW was even beating WWF for a second there. Bash at the Beach, that was like the most insane moment. It felt good when he turned heel, and he said, you know what? I did all the shit, man. I went all to the charities. I ate all my Wheaties. I took all my vitamins. I said all my prayers. And this is how you received me, And then he got all bitter and was like, yeah, this is how I'm treated. I'm watching it and I'm thinking to myself, this is Donald Trump. This is how Donald Trump feels. It's pretty obvious. By the way, it was very nice of Donald Trump to actually appear in that documentary. It was. The shit that Terry got for coming out for Donald Trump. One of his last moments at WWE. It was his last moment at WWE. Booed for supporting Donald Trump. And yet, this is what's being done with this administration. I know it's a small fry with everything going on, but any thoughts on the South Dakota gubernatorial primary? I think Dusty Johnson is the favorite, but I don't think Larry Roden is being respected enough in the odds. That's because sometimes these races, and I think you're probably right, but sometimes these races, it's funny like this, because they aren't I don't want to call them small fry, because the Dakotas are so often interesting races. I used to love polling South Dakota, by the way. I polled it for Kramer. It was amazing, by the way. 11-14, nailed 2 results, blew everybody's mind. It was perfect. They were like, I think that's when somebody first said to me, did you sell your level to be able to do this? I'm like, I'm just fucking on a run, baby. I'm on a run, baby. It was incredible. I mean, it's like when you say you're going to win by 12, for instance, and you say it's going to be 52-40, and then it's 52-40. It's better than if you say you're going to win by 12 and it's 52-40. And then it's 55-43. You know what I mean? When that shit happens, like, bam! It's delicious. It's just delicious. That feeling Hogan gets in the ring getting screamed and cheered on by all the crowd is the feeling I get when I see my numbers land dead on the vote. But I think you're probably right about that. And also, it's like a lot of this is by design. The establishment does this stuff. They make the air of inevitability around someone. Is the MAGA movement dead, DeWong? Can anyone take the mantle over from Trump? Very depressed 2020 and 2024 Trump voter. MAGA's dead. It's dead. I'm sorry. I wish I had a better answer. It is dead. The good news is no one should take the MAGA mantle. MAGA is probably going to be thoroughly disgraced by the time Trump's thing's over. Somebody should take the America First mantle and distinguish themselves from the MAGA. It's a good question. I wish I could answer it better. Oh, man, really? I could do this in a separate video. Could you do another mini Artemis presentation and use my grandson's first name as if talking to him, like you're giving him a quick lesson? He's 7 and wants to be an astronaut. It'd make his day. I'd be a celebrity. Can you message the local support thing? And yeah, I do videos like that for people when asked. I do like birthday videos and stuff. And can you message the support thing? And Laura will figure it out, and we'll put it together. I'll record something and send it to him, or I'll just do it live and send, and it'll be something you can just watch. Can you please do that and give me, I mean, if you want to give me his name and everything like that, and just don't do it here. Don't drop it here. You know, go to the support thing on Locals and send it. That will forward to me and Laura, and I'll make sure Laura's looking out for it, and we'll figure it out. Because yeah, I know that I know anything I could do to give a kid, you know, a kick and to inspire them to do something. Absolutely, that's a valid, honorable goal to be an astronaut. Space exploration in this new era is going to be very, very crucial, very, very important, and I'd love to encourage it. All right, where are we at on YouTube? Trump is not the most evil politician in the U.S., but given his venality, cowardice, vanity, and stupidity, he's the most contemptible of shit. Oh my god! Oh my god, bro! Can I screenshot that one? Holy moly! Holy moly moly! Holy crap! Wow! I'm sending that one to Jack Pasova. It's Carrie Underwood, who's a fellow Okie. Oh, it is Carrie. Don't tell Laura, as she knows. Had a major crush on Carrie Underwood. And I was doing this extra thing to get money, which I was like DJing, because I had the DJ skills from back in the day. And like, this was years and years and years ago. And I would get like extra money. Often I did, which I had to bring my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time when I first started, but I had to bring her along because I got a lot of sorority girls. That was like sorority girl parties. That was like my number one thing. That's who hired me the most. Fun times. Everyone wants the DJ to participate. Let's electric slide, girls. Let's get crazy. And then I would do what? Kid you not, hand to God, I'm not lying to you right now. St. Augustine, which was Flagler, was the craziest. Oh my god! And they're like, I'm so glad Laura's not here. Locals on a road rage, remind me to ask Laura to tell you those stories. Okay, funny stuff. And then I used to do weddings too and other stuff, and I didn't like to all the time. I definitely did the partying more, but money's money, man. So I would do the weddings, and do the whole shtick like you see people do at weddings. And I'm at this one wedding and there's like security. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Weird. And it never dawned on me. It was her family. And she was coming to the wedding. And I was like, you want to scratch my car with your key, girl? You can do it. You can do whatever the hell you want. You run that shit down. You can make me pay. Love me some Carrie. It was her cousin. Rich ordered the book. What do you think about Pratt? No. Oh, whoa. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. And whether his approach can be modeled for other populist candidates in blue-purple areas. Absolutely. I applaud the shit out of what Pratt's doing. Yeah, man. Oh, cool. I just saw Povan. I don't know if I should put that up, Life of Brian, I gotta put this up. Do I even put your super chat up? Because then I give the schmuck attention that I don't want to give him. And you know what I mean? That's a funny super chat, but I don't want to give him any attention because the truth is, and you guys on YouTube, you can read it. All of these guys are like Hasbara bullshit, and they're all in Hasbara chats together. And they don't have followings like that to get the traffic they have. They're paid to post, most of them. And then they are in these chats where they repost everybody. Like the traffic I get is organic. I'm not in chats where I send my tweets and then everyone amplifies them. And by the way, Nick Fuentes does this too. Like a lot of people do this. I can't be bothered. So if I go out and I send a tweet, for instance, where is one of the last tweets? I mean, my show tweets don't get a whole hell of a lot, but my comments do. The thing on Tucker with, Glenn Greenwald, we usually get a couple hundred likes, something like that. The Epstein one is at 741. The other one's at 2.1 thousand. That's organic. Here's a tweet from Cernovich, which is a good tweet, and I retweeted it. 3.2K likes. The Uno cards thing. I mean, that's organic. I don't go around putting my shit in all these chats. That one's got a lot. I don't do that. Oh, that's Joshua and I's tweet about the thing. That's interesting. You should follow my co-author, Joshua Lysak, on X. He's going to have some really cool research out. I know I did it. It's just some of these issues really highlight how we're not represented. We're just not. Barnes made a comment on Viva Barnes last night. That's true, which is the 17th Amendment. I've talked about this in great detail, which Barnes brought up that I did, in fact, study in college. The House of Representatives was never adjusted to be representative of what our founders expected, which is you need a rep for every 30,000 people. Now, obviously, we have to adjust as we get to be much, much bigger, but the House did not expand at a rate that's sufficient for our population. We are, in fact, underrepresented, and that's by design. It's why, look, Trump was not elected by boomers. Look at that tweet. I didn't put that anywhere. That got, 1,000 retweets or whatever it gets because it's organic. But yeah, I mean, the bottom line is the 17th Amendment, which led to the direct election of senators. This is all by design. It didn't actually give one man, one vote. It actually screwed that one man as bad as they possibly could have screwed them and gave rent seekers Senate seats for cheaper. And it goes a lot deeper than that. But one of the key things that you have to be able to do, one of the key things to make that work is to make sure that the original design with lower House representation, proportional representation, does not really adjust for population boom. And it would be difficult, practically speaking, but they haven't really moved it along at a rate that you would expect given our population. So the lower house underrepresented, people underrepresented. And why did they do that? Before the 17th Amendment, what was the House of Representatives? It was really the only federal office that originally was designed to be popularly elected, right? So it was totally intentional to take your power away. Totally. Look at AIPAC. Amy weakness, then we'll email you. Wink, wink. Oh, nice. Nice. I mean, Brian, I'd love to put it up there, but I really hate, what they call punching down. Like, that kid is fucking retarded. By the way, that dude saw me in Phoenix and basically got on his knees like he wanted to give me, like he was, oh, yeah, you're like, I so respect you, bro. Oh, man, I got so much respect for you. And I just laughed and chuckled and kept drinking my drink and didn't even really like, yeah, man. Yeah, sure. Okay. Like, I know bullshit when I smell it. Like, these guys are wannabes. They like want to be me, and they're only shills. And they're hoping that one year I'm going to be wrong when it helps Republicans so they can pretend to be analysts. You're not a fucking analyst. You're not a fucking pollster. You're a fucking wannabe. You're a shill. You're a 7K D sucker, bro. That's all you are, bro. You're a piker. You're a piker. I'm not even going to give these losers any attention. Most of them are going to be gone. Look, douche nozzle, I tapped him back just one time. These guys have been attacking me for a year straight. I finally one Saturday night, I'm talking to David or whatever it was, and I get pissed. He's got community notes under his thing, and he don't care. All day, he's just running out this bullshit, and Grok is community noting him automatically. The AI. And constantly, all the criticisms of my track record, Grok is like hitting him back. Like, that's a lie, noted. That's a lie, noted. And eventually, after a day of this, I went off on this guy. And I just tap him, bro. Like, this is a contact sport. Politics is a contact sport. You want to dredge up all my skeletons with your Hasbara bots every time I say something you don't like? Then I expect you to have much thicker skin when I finally go after you. Dude deletes most of his posts for like a week, cancels his podcast, unfollows me, blocks me, then refollows me and unblocks me just to write this whole thing, hoping I'm going to like respond. Like, bro, I already wrecked you, bro. And then blocks me again. Now doesn't have a following, is going to go silent on social media soon, and canceled his podcast. You're all getting canceled come November. You all should be. If you had any integrity or dignity, you would all be canceled already. You should be hiding under a fucking rock. You've been so stupid for the last year. It's now May. Everything you said has been wrong. Every data point is against you. You're a shill. You should be under a rock, humiliated by your own stupidity. Clip that. Can we get a poll on how realistic Dan Blizzard's chances of beating Randy Fine in the Florida race? Does he have a realistic? No, they need somebody better. I don't want to put anybody down or anything, but that's not what Dan is not what I would have done. But I do think that Randy Fine can be beat. I do. Absolutely. And the next time, by the way, Dan Bilzerin's like I don't know, isn't he like an influencer or something? He needs, I mean, maybe look, you know what? Let me take that back. Let me wait until there's something on it. Cause what he's talking about is relatively new. I don't know how the guy's going to be really funded. There is, I did see a report like how wealthy is he or something. Maybe I can find it. I don't know. I'd have to find it. Like they gave it was like a thing about his net worth or something, which is always the beginning of these attacks, you know? Okay, here's an attack on him already. The first thing that pops up is an attack from the Times of Israel. So, you know, the foreign agent has his foreign press come out to defend him already. But I mean, we'll see. You need somebody funded, of course. But honestly, I wouldn't. Randy Fine is the beginning of all of this going down. All the underperformances, all of the anti-free speech stuff that now made the Republican Party the greatest threat under the voters' eyes to speech freedoms. He's a disaster. Randy Fine's a disaster. Okay. So with that, I'm going to have to boogie here. It's 9:30. Let me Whoop, whoop. Fun fact, she's married to a former hockey player, Mike Fisher. Her marital name is Carrie Fisher, and even dressed up as Princess Leia at Galaxy's Edge. That's funny. I take it you know her pretty well, or know of her pretty well. She wasn't married back then. Yeah, she was single back then. This was like, she just won American Idol shit, and like had just like come out with that album. I think there was another song that I actually really liked from her. It may have been that song about cheating on. I don't know if that was one of her first ones, but I used to, minor crush on Carrie Underwood. It's, to me, talent is sexy. I'm a musical person myself, and unique voices especially are sexy. It adds to an already obviously very attractive woman, but her voice is unique. So I think musical people find other musical people attractive. I do. Especially when you find, I don't want to say admirable, I don't know what it is, but like a unique talent, because it's about expression. And then it's like, I don't know, man, I don't want to go down this road on a public show. Somebody say anything. But yeah, I mean, there's something about, it could be somebody who plays the fucking flute well or something. But to me, I guess everyone's got their own preferences, and mine is a voice. I like to sing. I don't always sing anymore, but I do. And I like to play the guitar. And girls who can sing have always been a thing for me. Okay? A thing. I feel like a singing voice is a gift from God, and is almost like a bit of a divinity coming out of their gorgeous mouth. It's, out of their diaphragm. And I'm a humanities guy. You might be surprised. I'm not as shallow as people make me out to be. Right, Laura? All right. Don't get me wrong. I'm somewhat shallow. I am. Oh, crap. I got rid of that thing, but that's okay. I do just want to show again the link to the 17. Well, you know what, though? There. Oh, I do have it. I thought I got rid of it. All right. Looks like a lot of you, several of you already did grab your tickets. That's freaking awesome. We'll have a blast. It's the beginning of August 1st, August 2nd. You will not be disappointed. Saturday it starts, so you can go in and then leave on Saturday. Same thing. It is one of those easy events where you can go spend one day and then go. Most people, almost everybody, obviously stays the weekend. And amazing city, just an amazing city. I love it. I love Chattanooga. I totally fell in love with that city. And of course, I won't show the link, but it's in the description. The Public Polling Project, the Kentucky 4-1. Contribute if you can, share it far and wide. We are kind of running out of time because you got to pull that district. It's May 4th. I want to pull it to the end and crunch it really quick, have kind of like a final drop, but we do need it to fund more than it is. I think it's in rollover to national poll area. I hope not, because I don't want to have a Massie +4 from 2 months ago or a month ago. I want to have very, like I said, the day before the election. That's how I intend to drop a poll, day before the election or the morning of the election. I've done that before. The day before is fine, because it's like not Wisconsin or something like that, where it was like same day, tons of same day voting going on, registration and voting. And then other than that, burn it down. Thank you so much for the book sales, guys. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing I did not expect it to keep doing what it keeps doing, and I'm just stoked. It's cool. It's cool. It's an awesome feeling, That link too is in the description. I'm telling you, it's the most important book written this year, maybe in the Trump era. There's all these stupid Trump era books. They told us nothing. Observer books, very good. I'm not even observer. They're kind of just like witness books. There's no real observations. There's certainly no original thoughts. everybody's like talking about missing the forest through the trees, guys. You know, that's what it's been the entire Trump era, missing the forest through the trees. All right. Nothing but love for you. I will see you guys. Well, see most people, of course, on Wednesday. I do believe there's something I have coming up. Just keep an eye on my social media. I think there is something I have to do tomorrow, a show I have to do tomorrow. Locals, I'll see you on Road Rage. All right. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your night. Let's see how this goes, how this little test run went for a Monday at 6 p.m. because we're going to try that this week and take the advice of the analysis and do it. We'll see how it goes. Hope it doesn't blow up in our faces. But it looks like it was a pretty decent audience, you know, for such short notice. All right, guys. I'll see you soon. Have a great rest of your night. See you tomorrow morning. Yep. Number love.